been added to the national grid. There's still a bit of work to be done, but nevertheless, it does add 800 megawatts to the national grid. We'll be talking to Eskom just at the top of 7 to find out what the implications are of the addition of this new capacity, where it places them in terms of the energy we have on the grid meeting the needs of the economy on any given day. So that conversation is coming up at the top of 7 o'clock. Then a bit later on, also in the hour 7, just before 8, we'll be in conversation with the Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber. His efforts to try and get the systems at Home Affairs to be digitized and upgraded continue. So the Department of Home Affairs launching an upgraded digital identity verification system. This, they say, is a major step in modernizing the public service in this country. The minister emphasizing that this move is part of government's push for greater efficiency with streamlining both public and private sector services, from banking to social grants, using biometric technologies like fingerprint and facial recognition. So the problem, as far as I understand it, that the minister and the people at Home Affairs are trying to solve for is that if you're applying, for instance, for a social grant, until now, the verification of your identity has been a bit erratic. There's been a system that ostensibly has been digital and enabling you to do it, quite efficiently, but that system has not always worked as it should. So the minister introducing there a system that we are told is far more efficient, such that if banks want to verify your identity on the National Population Register, they are able to just match your ID to that system quite efficiently. So that conversation coming up with Minister Leon Schreiber just before 8 a.m. And of course, we will also bring up issues to do with the fight against corruption at both Home Affairs and the Border Management Authority. There's a task team that's been at work there, and we are told that they are starting to see some results. So that conversation coming up at about 10 to 8. And then, speaking of things related to Home Affairs, Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs is currently busy with public hearings into the proposed new marriage bill. The bill is an attempt to consolidate the country's various marriage laws and bring them all in line with our country's constitution. So over the years, you will know there's been judgment after judgment that said this aspect of the Marriage Act is problematic because it doesn't recognize this form of marriage or that form of marriage. The result has been that basically our marriage law resides in various pieces of legislation. You have the Marriages Act, the Civil Unions Act, Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, etc., etc. So this act is trying to bring all of that together. So they've been doing public hearings. And as part of these public hearings, this week they were in the Eastern Cape, in areas like Mthatha, for example. And a few themes, the committee tells us, are coming to the fore. Among them is the popular proposal, at least popular in the Eastern Cape and at least in the areas where the committee has been with the public hearings, that the age of consent for marriage should actually be raised from the current 18 to 21. The argument goes that at the age of 18, many young people are still pupils, still in school, and also just the maturity that should attach to a commitment such as committing to marriage with all the attendant consequences, legal and otherwise, is just not there at the age of 18. So many people in those hearings making the proposal that actually you should raise the age of consent for marriage to 21. Because, at the moment with the current Marriages Act, for example, under certain conditions, even someone younger than 18, in theory, can have the ability to enter into a marriage with the consent of the parent and the Home Affairs Minister getting involved, etc., etc. But people there in the Eastern Cape, at least where this committee has been, have been saying, actually, do away with all of that. The age of marriage should be 21. I want to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think about how do we consolidate all of these marriage proposals, but also what do you think of this proposal that says move the age of consent for marriage from 18 to 21? Give me a call. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. But of course, in the third hour of the show, we'll focus on one particular aspect that has been coming out as well from those public hearings. And this is the aspect that has to do with the fair amount of opposition that has been coming through in the hearings, particularly from among some religious leaders, to same-sex marriages being included in the same bill that is meant to consolidate all of our marriage laws and bring them into compliance with our constitution. So we'll have that conversation at about 8:20. Of course, we've got all of your regulars locked and loaded for you again on this Wednesday morning. Kulufelo Tefo with your news updates every half hour. Every half hour on the show. Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Tuming Khabele is watching your sport throughout the morning. Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered for you. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And as I said, we take your calls on these and other issues. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. On social media, we are at SAFM on X. We are SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram. And we are live on our YouTube channel, that is SAFM Radio. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Kulufelo, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How are we looking on the diary this morning?
Today we are in the court where we firstly start with 2 suspects arrested in connection with the murder of 6 people at Merime settlement in Soshanguve, who are set to appear before the Pretoria North Magistrates Court today. This after the 12 people believed to be CPF members were shot over the weekend. Still in court, the murder trial of Limpopo media socialite Leboane Madaje will resume at the Thohoyandou High Court today. Madaje is accused of murdering his partner Lindelane Nongobela 2 years ago. And of course, U.S. President Donald Trump nominating a conservative activist and media critic as his next ambassador to South Africa. Leo Brent Bozell is the founder of the Media Research Center, an organization that works to identify liberal media bias. And however, the Department of International Relations says it has not received an official notification on this issue. That's what we'll be looking at.
All right, Kulufelo, thank you for that. It's an interesting one, the nomination of Brent Bozell. I've been watching a few of his older clips where he's made a 180-degree turn on Donald Trump. In 2016 or thereabouts, he was staunchly opposed to Donald Trump, but, you know, like many of the Republicans and conservatives, he's made a 180-degree turn and has come fully into the Donald Trump camp. That is Kulufelo Tefo there. She'll keep you updated with the news every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
At 17 minutes after 6, let's give you a sense of how your weather is looking on this Wednesday. We have one impact-based warning. It's a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms leading to heavy downpours, localized flooding, strong damaging winds, and excessive lightning. Those conditions are expected over the northeastern parts of the Northern Cape, western parts of the Northwest, and extreme western parts of the Free State. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 28. Johannesburg, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 28. Mbombela will see morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 27. Bulukwane will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 27. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers, 19 to 30. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 27. Kimberley will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 27. Uppington, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 31. Cape Town will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 24. George will be fine with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 22. Gqeberha will be fine, 17 to 24. East London, cloudy, becoming partly cloudy, 18 to 22. Durban will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 20 to 25. Richards Bay will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 19 to 26. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 21.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
19 minutes after 6. Let's focus on this story now. Unrest in Turkey, triggered by the arrest of the popular Istanbul mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu on corruption charges, has seen widespread protests in various parts of the country. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan accuses opposition parties of fueling the unrest. Meanwhile, protesters, many of them young, are rallying against both government and the opposition. The protests, now almost a week old, have led to clashes with authorities and numerous arrests. I'm joined now by Turkmen Terzi. He's a Johannesburg-based Turkish journalist writing for the online Turkish newspaper TR724. Good morning to you, Turkmen. It's good to talk to you on the radio. Finally, we've got you to join us on this show. Tell me
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me about Ekrem İmamoğlu. Who is he, and why has his arrest stirred the hornet's nest, in a manner of speaking, in Turkish politics?
Yes, Ekrem İmamoğlu is main rival of Erdogan. He is from Black Sea, Trabzon city, and Erdogan also from Rize city. These both cities are, how to say, very patriotic city, and they are powerful people in politics. So Ekrem Erdogan has been ruling Turkey since 2002. Actually, Erdogan was himself, he was the Istanbul mayor, and then Turkish secular state jailed him in 1998, and he formed party and he became a ruler. So he has been, he was himself a mayor, and his party had been ruling Istanbul until 2019, and Ekrem İmamoğlu, it means 25 years. Ekrem İmamoğlu from opposition party defeated Erdogan's party in 2019 March. So then they repeated election. So then again in June, İmamoğlu defeated Erdogan, and last year election CHP defeated first time Erdogan's party lost in municipality elections, and 15 metropolitan municipalities CHP won, opposition party won, and then so it was the CHP, Ekrem İmamoğlu is CHP's presidential candidate,
Yes,
which is going to be happening in 2028. So it was the Sunday was the primary election for CHP, CHP's presidential candidate. Only party members supposed to vote, but when because they arrested Ekrem İmamoğlu last Wednesday, so they opened this votes for entire country, and 15 million outsider vote for İmamoğlu. So İmamoğlu is the challenging Erdogan's rule.
So the bottom line, Turkmen, from what I'm hearing you say, President Erdogan sees İmamoğlu as quite the threat for his continued tenure as president of Turkey.
Yes, very true.
So Ekrem İmamoğlu is no stranger to trouble, is he? Tell me a bit more about his 2022 conviction for, at the time they were saying it was for insulting the Electoral Commission.
Yes, yes, because that time they canceled the election. Ekrem İmamoğlu received 13,000 more votes. Then they repeat the election. That time, Ekrem İmamoğlu called the organizer as fool. So that's why there was a verdict on him from that time. Also, just weeks ago, they canceled his university degree. They annulled, Turkish court annulled his university degree because he transferred from Cyprus University to Istanbul University. So you need a proper university degree for you to become a presidential candidate. But the irony is Erdogan's own diploma, everyone says fake, and court is then for you to check whether Erdogan's degree is genuine or not. So that's the reason they see İmamoğlu as a main threat. But the issue is CHP is a secular party, social democrat party, and Erdogan representing a conservative religious party. But İmamoğlu himself is a religious person. His surname is İmamoğlu, means son of the Imam. It means he is also representing religious conservative communities in Turkey. That's the reason Erdogan is see him as a threat. But before being a mayor, he was a district mayor in Istanbul, so he was not big threat for Erdogan. But as I said at the beginning, he is from Black Sea region, so Erdogan and himself, he used same political message. It's a kind of similar people, and this is the era. This protest is the biggest one since 2013 Gezi Park protest, which was similar against Erdogan.
Yeah, in fact, Turkmen, I wanted to take you there. Why are these protests being compared to those of 2013, the so-called Gezi Park protests, and why are they being framed as a fight for Turkey's democracy?
You know, Thulasizwe, the issue is Turkey is ideologically very divided country. It's a 98% Muslim. But you remember some country have religious issues, some country is a sensitive color issue. But in Turkey we have ideological issues. This is very sensitive. So CHP is like a secular, militant secular, we can call, like a French version. So there is Erdogan is Islamist. So then another parties are nationalists. So this is very divided. So Gezi Park protests, they were mostly leftist, Alawites people. So they were against Erdogan's religious rule. So this tension we have in Anatolia since Ottoman time. So this goes back to long and long history, like between Alawites and Sunni. So Ekrem İmamoğlu's party is like mostly Alawite people. Yeah. Rulers are Alawites. So the Erdogan's party is more Sunni. So there's a big tension. Yeah. So this is not only a political issue. This is also, how to say, like a sensitive issue between different groups. So they challenge both of their rules.
Lastly, Turkmen, you alluded to this a little bit, but I'd like you to go a bit deeper into it. Despite being on polar opposite sides politically, Erdogan and İmamoğlu, many are drawing parallels between the two of them, and many are drawing parallels with Erdogan's own political trajectory and his rise in ways that, you know, the ways that they've traversed the troubles with the law, Erdogan himself having been arrested, the region from which they come. Just take me through the similarities in terms of the trajectory that was followed by Erdogan in terms of his own rise and what we are now seeing. In fact, there's one analyst, and I want to read this quote for you. Sona Kagaptey, a biographer of Erdogan and an analyst with the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, says, quote, "We are reliving the political dramas of the 1990s where Erdogan was targeted by the state, except this time Erdogan has become the state. İmamoğlu is the new Erdogan." Why would an analyst say such a thing, comparing the two men?
Because in Turkey, we have a kind of deep state. Deep state means derin devlet. So we have a military establishment. This comes from Atatürk. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk is founder of Turkey. So Ottoman Empire collapsed. Then Atatürk is established a modern Turkey. Is a secular Turkey. That's why in Turkey we are facing so tension. So the military establishment is how to say, prevent Erdogan become a prime minister. They jail him. Then they try to prevent Erdogan to become president. So it means president is representing the state, and the prime minister used to represent the political party. So Erdogan transformed Turkey. He was very democratic. He was a prime minister, but he transformed Turkey from parliamentary system into Turkish version executive presidency, which means is a one rule. So Erdogan, he himself become a state. He sided with the military and bureaucratic establishment, and he established his own bureaucracy, his own presence in the state. So government and states are different terms in Turkey. So now Erdogan is a state, and is İmamoğlu challenging him. So they are right. Is history repeats itself, and İmamoğlu is another victim. But most probably İmamoğlu is going to be a Turkish president.
Okay.
So I don't think so Erdogan can, because 80% of young people, they are not happy with Erdogan. Erdogan is controlling rule of law, closing down media, especially since 2016 mysterious coup attempts. He shut down 170 media houses, jailed so many others. Erdogan he himself faced corruption case 2013, 17 December. His four ministers, they resigned that time, but Erdogan said it's a political coup, and he jailed all of the police and prosecutors who were against himself.
Turkmen, thank you for that.
Same thing is happening.
Turkmen, thank you for that, for those insights as well. That's Turkmen Terzi. He is a Johannesburg-based Turkish journalist. He writes for the online Turkish newspaper TR724. Still some way, of course, towards the elections, but it's interesting. It's been interesting to watch how it's all taking shape over the last few days. As you heard there, the protests and the similarities that people are drawing, the parallels that people are drawing between the rise of Erdogan and what we are seeing now with Ekrem İmamoğlu. Let's see how it all unfolds over the coming years. But for now, it's 6:30. Let's check in with Kulufelo Defo with the latest news headlines.
Thanks to Thulasizwe. In the headlines, the Sawa Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has called for calm in Soshanguve, north of Pretoria. This followed the arrest of 2 suspects linked to the brutal murder of 6 community patrollers at the Merimi informal settlement on Saturday. And hope may be on the horizon for more than 40 political parties eager not to have their registration cancelled. This comes as the Electoral Commission announced the Monday, 24th March cut-off date for 192 inactive political parties to make their submissions on the cancellation of their registration. And the Department of International Relations says it has not received official notification of U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to nominate Brent Bozell as the next ambassador to South Africa. Details at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It looks like a fairly busy Wednesday. We are post-payday for a lot of people, and of course it's a busy office day for the hybrid crew, so just both of those factors increasing traffic volumes. It's very heavy coming through Midrand. An earlier crash down by the Allendale Road exit has pushed traffic already right back into Brockfontein. That is heavy across all lanes on that run through Midrand. The side roads and the approach roads likely to be heavy as motorists stuck out of it or trying to get into it. Crash on the N3 north at Galulis. That's in the wrong place this morning. That's pushing traffic back to Elan's interchange territory already, and a bit of congestion coming up the N1 from Eldos through Devlin down through Uncle Charlie's. A crash driving in towards Moy River going that way from Howick. It's a collision a little bit earlier around Nottingham Road area. In fact, I think I've just got a message through saying that's cleared, so that's good news. Big traffic coming out of Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban. Backlogs down towards Ashburton. That looks like you're probably squeezing into a single lane to get through there. And Cape Town, a crash on the M5, the busy M5 north at Klipfontein Road. That has already pushed a queue back towards sort of Wetton Road Bridge territory. So between Ottery and Kenilworth, you're experiencing some big delays coming in on that M5 north. With the traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Dumi Nkgapele.
Hey, look who's here today. Good morning to you, Dumi.
Good morning. How are you?
Welcome to the morning.
Yeah, no, it's
Are you
great
coping?
to be back. I'm well.
It's
I'm
great to
coping.
be back, you said.
Yeah.
Okay, we love that. So you and I are going to do a lot of things today, Dumi. But what we're not going to do is fact check our colleague Oliver Dixon, right? If Oliver says Bafana are the best performing country in the world right now.
Shoo.
The best performing football team in the country, in the world, national team in the world right now.
In the world.
19 games unbeaten.
19 games unbeaten.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And it continued yesterday.
It continued yesterday, and big ups to them. I think right now the dream of qualifying for the World Cup is absolutely alive, because Bafana claimed a 2-0 win over Benin last night to extend their lead to 5 points clear at the top of Group C of the World Cup qualifiers. Goals by Lyle Foster and Jaden Adams helped South Africa secure a win to take them up to 13 points from 6 matches. Rwanda and Benin joined second in Group C on 8 points, while Nigeria are on 7 points. Meanwhile, Bafana will reportedly not be sanctioned for their error of playing Tebogo Mokoena in last week's World Cup qualifier against Lesotho. This is because Lesotho didn't report the incident to the match commissioner, CAF or FIFA within a 2-hour deadline immediately after the game, or further 24-hour limit. Now, Mokoena had 2 yellow cards from previous qualifiers and should have been suspended for the match against Lesotho. In other selected results from yesterday, Egypt claimed 1-0 win over Sierra Leone to remain top of Group A with 16 points from 6 games. Botswana beat Somalia 2-0 to move third in Group G. Wales played to a 1-0 draw against North Macedonia, and Erling Haaland scored as Norway beat Israel 4-2 to move 3 points clear in Group I. Then moving on to athletics, SA 100-meter record holder Kani Simbini says winning bronze at the World Indoor Championships has boosted his confidence as he prepares for the World Senior Championships in Tokyo.
Definitely. I think just having the medal, and also knowing that we have ticked a few boxes off, that we wanted to tick off. So that for us was important, and yeah, it's showing that where we're at with training, we're good with it. Now we can move on to the next and now pull up to the rest of the season.
In tennis, Iga Swiatek is getting extra security at the Miami Open after being harassed by a spectator during practice at the Miami Open. Swiatek was verbally attacked by a spectator who has a history of online attacks against the player. Meanwhile, Casper Ruud has crashed out of the tournament after losing to Francisco Cerundolo 6-4 and 6-2. And Cerundolo next faces Grigor Dimitrov, who beat Brandon Nakashima 6-4 and 7-5. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For her first update of the morning, let's say good morning to Ntaoling Lechela. So Ntaoling, I don't think Donald Trump will like this very much. Tell me about U.S. consumer morale slipping in March.
Not at all, Thulasizwe morning, and it seems like it's a trend now. Consumer confidence in the U.S. taking a hit in March, with the view of future conditions falling to its lowest level in over a decade. Now, according to the Conference Board, the monthly confidence index for current conditions slipped to 92.9 points, marking a 7.2-point decline and the fourth consecutive monthly contraction. Economists were expecting a reading of 93.5, but the actual number fell short. The future expectations index told a more grim story, tumbling 9.6 points to 65.2. Now, this is the lowest reading in 12 years. This is well below the 80 level that's considered a warning sign for a recession. Now, the index measures respondents' outlook on income, business, and job prospects. And Stephanie Gurchard, senior economist at the Conference Board, noted that consumers' optimism about future income has largely vanished, suggesting that worries about the economy and labor market are spreading into consumers' personal assessments. These findings, of course, come amid concerns over President Trump's plans for tariffs on U.S. imports, a volatile stock market, and other surveys showing warning sentiment.
But our own consumer confidence didn't fare any better, did it, in quarter one? Tell me about it hitting a new low over a period of some 2 years or something.
That's right, Thulas. Morale among local consumers also taking a hit, declining to a 2-year low in the first quarter. According to the FNB BER Consumer Confidence Index, morale fell to minus 20 index points from minus 6 in the preceding 3 months. This downturn is attributed to growing concerns about the local economy, particularly the threat of higher taxes and tension among government partners. The proposed hike in VAT poses a significant tax burden on consumers, and the withdrawal of U.S. aid to South Africa and deteriorating diplomatic relations between the two countries have also contributed to the decline in morale. The economic outlook sub-index plunged to minus 32 from minus 9, while the household finances sub-index dropped to minus 1 from 11, and the durable goods sub-index declined to minus 28 from minus 21. The showing from the sub-indexes also shows that the decline in consumer sentiment is broad-based, with all income groups also showing a decrease in confidence. High-income households in particular have seen the biggest drop in confidence, with a decline of 26 index points. Experts in the meantime are divided on the implications of this decline. While some express concerns about the growing downside risks to South Africa's growth, others believe that this is just a one-time shock and that consumers may possibly be in for a recovery. Well, morale in particular may be in for a recovery in the coming months.
All right, Ntauling, please give us our first roundup of market activity from here at home and elsewhere in the world.
So the relief rally that hit markets last week is ongoing, coming in strong. Even though we are seeing, U.S. markets park gains, stocks are still in the green, with the Nasdaq leading gains on that front, closing almost 0.5% higher. And this despite downbeat consumer confidence figures. Locally, investors also shrugging off the disappointing consumer morale report and jobs print, closing in positive territory. The all share up over 0.8%, being boosted by gains in the financial 15, up 1.6%. Some weakness coming through on the currency front, with the rand sitting at 18.28 to the dollar this hour. Then over in Asia, markets following international peers, trading in positive territory as investors digest economic data.
That's how Ntauling Lechela. She's always right on the money. Look out for her second update, and that will be coming up just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Get down to Dis-Chem Pharmacies for awesome autumn savings for the whole family. Get 20% off Blade's 260ml shave gels. Buy any 2 Safeguard Hygienic 1-litre shower and bath gels for only 110 Rand. Save 49 Rand 98. And get 20% off Dental Mate mouthwashes. Don't miss out. Offers valid until Sunday, 13 April. Only at Dis-Chem Pharmacies. Better health starts here.
The Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Northwest Appropriation Bill 2025 on the 26th March 2025 in Ngakamudiri Molema District at Delareyville Municipal Hall in Delarey, in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District at Tihani Community Hall in Tihani, in Dr. Ruth Sohomotsi Mumbadi District at Bonabona Community Hall in Bonabona, in Bojanala District, Breds White Hall in Breds. All hearings start at 10.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
19 minutes to 7. The Automobile Association, the AA, has laid into the government for its recently announced plans to invest more money into the expansion of the Gautrain. The AA's criticism follows Gauteng Finance MEC Lebogang Maile's recent recommitment in his budget speech to plans to expand the Gautrain system, despite acknowledging in that speech its declining rider numbers. Maile has revealed that the Gautrain has failed to regain lost traction post the pandemic years, with ridership figures at 7.9 million for the 2023 to 2024 financial year compared to nearly 14 million in the 2019-2020 financial year. Let's speak to the Automobile Association's CEO, Bobby Ramagwede. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So you've described the Gautrain system as a financially unsustainable project that neglects the majority of commuters. Do you believe that there's no role and no room for this system to be expanded such that it serves underserved areas at the moment?
Morning and morning to your listeners. So I think the key message from us is that we're not anti-Gautrain, but what we are is pro-inclusive mobility. We've made a call, and you would have read the article, we've made a call that the focus from the Gauteng government should be to improve light rail access throughout the province. By doing so, what you are likely to improve is the number of commuters that are now available to access a slightly faster speed rail network vis-a-vis the Gautrain.
So that's exactly the plans, though, that were announced by Premier Lesofie in his State of the Province address last year, that the Gautrain had this plan to extend its rapid system, the Gautrain, to areas such as Soweto, Fourways, Mamelodi, Atteridgeville, Lanseria, and Springs. And I believe that's what the Finance MEC was talking to, and what you've just alluded to as that you are pro-inclusive mobility.
So another point of clarity for you there. There's a difference between high-speed rail and light rail. When I refer to light rail, I'm referring to the legacy PRASA network, the more affordable network.
I see. So you believe that that is the system that should be expanded as opposed to the Gautrain?
Correct. Government serves the people, and the people don't have inclusive and accessible mobility. So our call to the government is take some time to focus on providing mobility for those who really need it. Let's be fair and frank, the Gautrain is a train system for those who can afford alternative means of transportation. Those who cannot afford alternative means of transportation are slightly stranded.
Is there nothing in the model of the Gautrain as it is, that would, once it's expanded to the areas that are just mouthed off from the speech of the Premier from last year, that would make it to serve exactly that purpose of connecting people in areas that are a bit far off from the economic hubs of the province of Gauteng and connecting them to those economic hubs? Is there nothing that you believe can be purposed such that it serves that purpose?
For it to serve that purpose, the fare would have to be reduced quite dramatically. And to that extent, you'd find that the economic model of the project would be a failure.
And in terms of moving traffic from road to rail, and this is commuter traffic that we're talking about, as opposed to goods and freight, do systems like the Gautrain not have a role to play in serving that purpose? Because I know that your primary concern has to do with the safety and conditions under which people drive on the road. Would the system not be complemented by, in addition to systems such as the PRASA network, you then have the Gautrain system as well expanded to these areas?
It certainly does play a role. So of concern to us as an organization is the broader mobility ecosystem. Part of it is transferring people across various modalities of transportation. You're quite right in saying that alleviating some of the pressure from road to rail is part of the solution, but let's keep in mind that this integrated ecosystem needs to be very inclusive. Today, what happens, and as you can see by the diminishing ridership, is people are interchanging between road and rail, not necessarily migrating from road to rail.
So just as a parting shot then, what are these inclusive transport solutions? And you did mention light rail, but just talk to me about how you envisage an integrated system, on the roads, in as far as rail is concerned as well. How do you foresee that, and what are the concrete suggestions that you are making on how to make an integrated system work in a province like Gauteng?
Okay. An integrated system caters to all forms of mobility. That's pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, motorcyclists, etc. To get that right, the road network needs to be accommodating for those who are non-motorized, i.e. those walking and those cycling. In addition to that, the public transport network or ecosystem needs to be affordable and inclusive enough to encourage those who are currently in motorized transportation, vis-a-vis cars, to transition from their own vehicles into either buses or light rail. That light rail network, allowing for those who want to travel further, will hop onto higher, faster, more heavier rail network, as is done in many comparative European countries. It's not to say that there aren't cars on the road, but they're very functional and efficient public transport systems underpinned by the backbone of a strong rail network.
Sure. So I think I'm finally getting the point you're making about rapid rail transit. Are you saying that for inside Gauteng, commuters within Gauteng, the lighter rail systems like PRASA, Metro Rail, are more suitable, and then for interregional travel, the higher speed rail is more suitable? Do I have you correctly there?
Almost.
Yeah.
I'm saying they're complementary.
Yes.
In many established economies, you have light rail and high-speed rail functioning at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just that they serve two purposes and they come at different price points.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you for that. That's the Automobile Association's CEO, Bobby Ramakwede.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's take quick reaction to that conversation. The Automobile Association criticizing government's plans, as you just heard my conversation with the Automobile Association's CEO, Bobby Ramakwede, saying basically that this is an elitist system, the Gautrain. It has become an elitist system, and government should rethink how that fits in within an integrated and pro-inclusive mobility in a province like Gauteng. Let's hear what some of you have had to say about that.
Mr. Thulas, good morning. It's Ndumiso from Motorful KZN. Yeah, I agree with the AA official. There's really no need to expand the Gautrain, say, towards areas where the light rail, as he referred, already exists. There is no need. That just needs to be refurbished, rationalized and put back into use. Simple. Otherwise, you're just wasting a lot of money where you can put it in making the current system efficient. That's all. There's no need to expand the Gautrain any further. It just doesn't make sense.
Right. Thank you for that. And thank you for making that input, even though you are not in Gauteng, just your investment in issues like these, because they do recur across the country and they're quite relevant in how other metros and other provinces grapple with issues of mobility and integration. But I get the point that you are making.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good news coming through Midrand. The crash on the M1 South at Allendale has been cleared. Traffic busy, but moving is the call there now. In fact, between sort of Brackfontein and Buccleuch, it's pretty busy all the way through, but the crashing is out of the way. Collision on the N3 North going up into Galilee's interchange, so from Alberton and Germiston. That's very heavy backlogs this morning coming through there. And Main Road in from Lone Hill, quite a heavy backlog through towards Vicom. And it looks like there's some traffic light issues in that sort of Lone Hill, Macquarie-Bryanston area again this morning. Durban side, the N2 running north is an unusual backlog. Looks like something's happened around Spaghetti Junction. In fact, it's just sort of starting to queue through the Westwood Mall into the roadworks, but I wouldn't be surprised if something's also broken down just around the interchange. It's a different traffic pattern there. Wakesley Road coming up off Sarnia towards the M7. There's quite a heavy backlog this morning. And the N3 out of Pietermaritzburg slow towards Durban as you come down to sort of Market Road on your way to Ashburton. Cape Town, quite a serious looking crash on the N5 north at Klipfontein Road. It's another jam-packed morning with queues back to Southfield and Parkwood. It was busy into a crash on Monday. It's busy again this Wednesday morning. Marine Drive, Bayside through all the way to Woodbridge Island, looking quite slow along the coast. And the busy junction of Bloberg Road and Kuberg Road queuing up again this morning. Bloberg Road outbound, you'd expect that, but the Kuberg Road running north into Bloberg Road through the refinery area looking quite sluggish if you're on your way towards Killarney Gardens or Dunoon. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Durban is excited to welcome visitors this Easter season. Join the family-friendly fun with unforgettable day tours along the Golden Mile, indoor and outdoor adventures, and delicious culinary delights. Don't miss the grand opening of West Town Square on 27 March, Durban's newest lifestyle destination in Shongweni. This multi-million rand project is set to transform the city's western corridor. As Africa's event capital, Durban will host major events this season, including the joyous celebration Easter Megafest and the Pre-Easter Gospel Festival. Discover the excitement in Africa's playground. For more details and Easter packages, visit visitdurban.travel. Also the hashtag Durban Easter 2025, hashtag Discover Durban, hashtag Visit Durban.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us, because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
6 minutes to 7 here on the Morning Brief. Let's focus now on one of those scourges that continue to afflict our society, the abuse of children. Over the past 5 years, just 4% of over 5,000 reported child abuse cases handled by the Teddy Bear Foundation have resulted in convictions, highlighting the profound challenges within the justice system. With delays, frequent postponements, and a lack of resources plaguing the courts, many child victims face prolonged trauma, often forcing them to relive their abuse. This has prompted calls among some experts for systemic reforms to ensure justice is served more effectively and compassionately for the most vulnerable members of society. Let me welcome into the conversation Clinic Director at the Teddy Bear Foundation, Shahida Omar. Good morning to you, Shahida, and thank you for your time. So these 5,000 cases, you tracked them over a period of 5 years, and you say this is the result, quite shocking, only 4% resulting in convictions.
Indeed, I think we need to understand that 15% of those cases reached finalization, but of those 15%, only 4 cases got a conviction, which means the rest of the cases were not, were either acquitted, withdrawn, and as a result, we can see that access to justice for children has certainly not been completed, that a lot of children have been subjected to further trauma, like you said, secondary victimization, where the systems that were supposed to protect children have actually failed our children.
So, Shahida, I don't think I need to restate that ours is not a system based on you must get a conviction at any cost. It makes provision for the possibility that a person can be acquitted. But when you have convictions at such a low rate, at 4% of 5,000 cases, that does talk to something that perhaps is a bit disturbing. What are some of the common trends that you are picking up that lead to failure to take the cases through to their logical conclusion, and in some instances where that happens, leads to a low conviction rate?
So the reality on the ground is that these cases, firstly, if we look at the National Prosecutions Authority, will only take on cases where they have a high probability of getting a conviction rate, okay? So other cases where many cases don't even get to that stage. The reality is also that we find that our law enforcement officials are overburdened, are overwhelmed with high caseloads, and there is a breakdown in communication often between the victim's family, and the law enforcement officer, where because due to lack of resources, often the families are not informed about the actual trial dates, or that the child has to come in and testify, and sometimes they only learn about it afterwards. And so, as a result of that, cases are then thrown off the roll. And other issues are that IOs, the investigating officers, don't have resources, like I mentioned, so they don't have vehicles. the lack of resources, they usually are expected to fetch the victim, take the victim to court, and return the victim. And at the last minute, find themselves in a position where they don't actually have a vehicle to fetch the child. Then we find that even with the defense lawyer, there's delay tactics where there isn't a defense lawyer, or the defense lawyer has not arrived, or they've appointed another one, and cases just get postponed. But then we also look at the forensic, the evidence, the collection of the crime kit, and even there, the crime kits are not easily always available, or if it is available and forensic evidence has been taken, there's a bottleneck sitting at the forensic labs.
Yeah.
But again, coming back to the systemic changes, practical things like lack of water. So, of course, once there's no water at the court, cases are postponed.
Yeah.
Then there's load reduction as well, so cases are postponed. You just see these delays, and parents then just disappear into the sunset because they find the perpetrator has been released on bail, and now they're living in the same building, living in the same yard, and then the child is subjected to the secondary victimization, trauma, coercion, intimidation, and they decide they have to withdraw. They're not going to continue with this because it's more harmful than helpful to the victim.
In fact, Shaida, please say a bit more about the systemic changes that you believe should be taking place. And you cover a wide range from the infrastructure in courts that would allow for, child victims to be able to give their testimony better than what we've been able to provision for up to this point, all the way to the issues you just raised around the backlog around DNA tests.
So, firstly, I think what needs to be done here is that we need specialized training, not only for investigating officers or your SAPS officials, because they are not always equipped in communicating or responding to child victims. And often parents and child victims suffer secondary trauma. So specialized training for them, but also specialized training for prosecutors, because not every prosecutor is equipped to work with sexual offenses. And then we also have to look at the DNA backlog that needs to be speeded up, that needs to be addressed, but also provision for, when they're in absence of water, the sanitation, the hygiene, the court systems, but even the lack of intermediaries. There aren't sufficient intermediaries, so that is something that also needs to be addressed. And then sexual offences courts. There aren't sufficient sexual offences courts either. And then, of course, even training for magistrates, because often magistrates cannot cope with sexual offences. Many of them would recuse themselves. And, these are all just challenges. These are systemic challenges in the system where everybody is failing the child.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Shahida Omar. She is the clinic director at the Teddy Bear Foundation. That brings us to just a minute after 7. Let's check in with Kulufelo Tefu with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
Thanks to Thulasizwe. Top stories. The Sawa Mchunu calls for calm in Soshanguve and no official confirmation on U.S. next ambassador to SA. Good morning. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has called for calm in Soshanguve, north of Pretoria. This followed the arrest of 2 suspects linked to the brutal murder of 6 community patrollers at the Merimi informal settlement on Saturday. The suspects are expected to appear before the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. 4 of the victims remain in hospital, while 2 have since been discharged. Mchunu says that communities must continue to work together with fighting crime, while police are mobilizing resources to make sure the remaining suspects are arrested.
Communities must not be deterred. They must not, conclude that standing up for the people against crime, it will always be like this. It's not. Part of the reason why we went there was to assure them that we've deployed more police and more vehicles, and also that we've started arresting, although we're all worried and equally worried about those who are still at large. But we're dealing with the matter, and we're asking for stability in the area while people are alert.
The presiding judge in the Jocelyn Smith kidnapping and human trafficking trial, Judge Nathan Erasmus, has issued a stern warning to the state's key witness, Laurentia Lombard. Yesterday's proceedings were adjourned early at the High Court sitting in Saldanha Bay in the Western Cape after Lombard fell ill. Erasmus has also expressed frustration at all the delays in the case. He also made reference to Lombard's continuous discrepancies in her testimony and original police statement. Lombard has stated that she often gets confused. Judge Erasmus had this to say.
If your evidence is correct, the accused, but particularly Ms. Smith, faces life imprisonment. If you don't listen to the questions and ultimately it affects your credibility, it might also affect my decision at the end of the case whether to discharge you from the charges and grant you the indemnity.
Hope may be on the horizon for more than 40 political parties eager not to have their registration cancelled. This comes as the Electoral Commission announced the Monday 24th of March cut-off date for 192 inactive political parties to make their submissions on the cancellation of their registration. IEC Deputy Communication Manager David Mandaha says the IEC is reviewing their submissions.
The Electoral Commission received more than 40 submissions. The Commission is currently evaluating these submissions and the determination will be announced in due course.
Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Health has expressed concern about KwaZulu-Natal healthcare facilities. The committee is in the province to conduct oversight visits to several healthcare facilities. This is after receiving letters of complaints from the members of the public. Residents at Gamalake say they often wait all day in long queues from early morning and are turned away without being helped, while others say they are poorly treated by certain staff. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health is Dr. Spongiseni Hlomo.
Some of the members of the society who wrote to us regarding what they think is challenge with attitude of staff, shortage of medicines, we are going to get hands-on responses. We can't leave KwaZulu-Natal having not visited forensic pathology services. We go to Parkreen and go to Phoenix, because there's always been over 1,000 of unclaimed bodies remain in those mortuaries.
And finally, the Department of International Relations says it has not received official notification of U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to nominate Brent Bozell as the next ambassador to South Africa. The move was confirmed by a congressional website indicating that the nomination had been received by the U.S. Senate and was referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations for processing. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports that Bozell is the founder of the Media Research Center, an organization that works to identify liberal media bias in the United States.
A source within the Department of International Relations told SABC News that they had not received official confirmation of the Bozell nomination, but that it would look at the nominee's profile and conduct proper vetting. According to the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, the state receiving the designated diplomat may refuse agreement without giving a reason, a move that seems unlikely in the current context where Pretoria is seeking to improve strained relations with Washington. Bozell's Senate confirmation will likely only proceed once Pretoria has given the go-ahead, a confirmation process that could be at least weeks away, if not several months, depending on the Senate's schedule. Shervin Bryce-Peace, SABC News, New York.
The top story this hour, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has called for calm in Soshanguve, north of Pretoria. This followed the arrest of 2 suspects linked to the brutal murder of 6 community patrollers at the Merrimee informal settlement on Saturday. The suspects are expected to appear before the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. Headlines at 7:30 for SFM News. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Has your medical aid gone up this year? That does not mean you have to pay more for your car insurance too. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Couple of extra delays, northern parts of Joburg this morning. Lights are out, we can confirm that. Main and Witkoppen, so the run-in on Main from Lone Hill's heavy. And there's a crash up at Johannesburg North. It's Witkoppen, driving to four ways near Pritchard Street, so quite a heavy delay coming out of the North Riding area. Crash at Galuli's, N3 North is the explanation for the big traffic backlogs out of Alberton and Germiston this morning. N12, N3 routes heavily backed through Bedford View, coming out from Germiston into that particular crash scene. Some delays on the R21 if you're airport bound. The roadworks down by the R23 Benoni exit, and it is already queuing. If you're coming from Pretoria for flight connections, give yourself a ton of time to get through. Durban's N2 heavy today from the cement factory through towards the works just north of Spaghetti Junction. Queues out of Pietermaritzburg, N3 very heavy through Market Road on your way to Durban. Queues down towards Ashburton this morning. And Cape Town, two big standouts. One is this crash on the M5 North at Klipfontein. Traffic is heavy from Southfield and Parkwood this morning. In fact, getting back in towards sort of Grassy Park territory, that's the long run through there, the long haul. And roadworks on the N7, Jakes Curvell Drive at Voortrekker Road still in place. Backlogs just south of the N1. That is heavy on the run south through the Goodwood area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Bruce hails Bafana's hard work, Titans beaten by Kings, and World Athletics approves gender eligibility test. More details at 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Wednesday. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Coming up over the next hour, we'll be talking electricity and energy with the Eskom spokesperson, Daphne Mukwena. She'll be telling us a bit more about Unit 6 at Gusile. Finally, after all of those delays coming on stream. There's still a bit of work they are telling us that they still need to do for the next few months before it reaches commercial operation. But the important thing is that 800 megawatts added to the national grid, coming in at a really critical time, given some of the pressures that we have seen. So Daphne Mukwena on standby to talk to me about Gusile Unit 6 coming on stream. Then we're going to have a bit of, it's one of those rather difficult conversations, right? This is the conversation about the Jocelyn Smith case that has been playing itself out in Saldanha Bay. And among the testimony that has been coming out there, I mean, a lot of people have been paying attention, and the amount of shock that everyone is just living through at hearing some of the allegations and some of the testimonies that have been coming through there. Among that has been an argument by some of the witnesses that, in fact, for instance, the former neighbor, Laurentia Lombard, testifying that the accused in that case, the mother of Jocelyn Smith, had admitted to selling Jocelyn to a sangoma. Sorry, I almost anglicized it. To a sangoma, offering disturbing details about that transaction. And it's a theme that has come through. So we'll bring in the voice of traditional healers to just talk about how is it possible that in 2025, despite all of these conversations we've been having about the role of traditional medicine within the bigger scheme of medicine and the practice of that in South Africa, how is it possible that we continue to talk about some of these practices continuing to be a thing that actually happens in communities in 2025? So we'll bring in Mbambai Hlati, who is president of the SADC Unified Ancestors Traditional Organization, and he will weigh in on some of those issues that are coming through, disturbing issues that are coming through from that trial. Through it all, I welcome your calls. Do give me a call and weigh in on that topic, those topics and many others. We've been hearing a bit more from you as well, including on the issue of the proposal that the age of consent for marriage should actually be raised from the current 18 to 21. That's part of what has been coming out from the public hearings that the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs has been having about the new marriage bill that is set to be introduced to consolidate all of our marriage laws. Do weigh in on those and any other issues that may be exercising your mind this morning. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes. Please send them to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
What would your school do with 10 return flights from Thulasizwe? Imagine the possibilities: sports trips, cultural tours, and the opportunity to unlock your learner's talent and potential. That's right, Thulasizwe School Booster is back, and your school could be one of 10 to win 10 return flights to any SA destination. Enter at thulasizwe.co.za and tell us how this prize could give your school a boost. Entry closed 27 March. Thulasizwe, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
14 minutes after 7, Eskom has successfully added the final unit of Gusile Power Station in Mpumalanga, that is Unit 6, to the national grid, marking a significant milestone in the country's energy infrastructure development. This achievement is a critical step towards meeting Eskom's goal of adding 2,500 megawatts of new capacity by the end of this month or early next month, as per the last update, and signals progress, we are told, in the country's ongoing efforts to improve energy security and reduce rolling power blackouts. Let's welcome into the conversation Daphne Mukwena, who is the Eskom spokesperson. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So you will understand why many South Africans, and I've seen this narrative, I hate to start off with it, but it is almost the foremost issue. I've seen the narrative that says, don't expect South Africans to applaud that you finally brought Unit 6 on stream. You are many, many years late.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Yeah. I think you're correct. Yes, on Sunday we connected Unit 6, which was the last unit in the build program at Gusile Power Station, to the grid. And from Sunday and in the next 6 months, starting from Sunday, we will be then doing some tests and optimization to ensure that the unit complies with, or it's grid compliant. So this is good news, Thulasizwe. Yes, I take note of, to say that we shouldn't celebrate. However, given the challenges that we've been having in terms of energy security, and given that as Eskom, we, from our generation operational plan, we had, said that we are going to focus on ensuring that we recover capacity and ensure that we meet the 70% energy availability factor. And this is one of the steps that, or the goal that we have reached to ensure that we work towards achieving that energy availability factor of 70% and making our power system more stable and strengthen it.
So it was quite ironic that a few hours after you announced that you had connected this Unit 6 to the national grid, a bit later on, you started talking about the possibility of load shedding happening, and this was on Sunday. Where does that leave us in terms of the balance, the fine balance that you are having to navigate between planned outages for maintenance, unplanned outages that are occurring when you have such a thin margin in terms of what's available, and especially ahead of peak winter demand?
Yeah, what we should just keep in mind, Thulasizwe, is that when we announce on Sunday that the unit is being synchronized, remember what it means is that it's just connected into the grid. It is giving us a capacity or generating, but we will be actually ramping it up for the next few days up until it reaches 800 megawatts. But even that 800 megawatts, because of the testing or rigorous testing that we'll be doing the next a few months or 6 months, it means that the 800 megawatts, once it reaches even that 800 megawatts, or from Sunday, when we start with these testing, it will be the unit will be either won't be giving us continuous 800 megawatt supply into the system. So there will be those days where we need to switch it off so that we continue with these testing. So that is a different, in as much as we have celebrated, the connection or the synchronization of this unit, as we said correctly, that there's still some work that needs to be done. So it will intermittently give us the 800 megawatts. However, that the continuous 800 megawatts will only see it once it is on commercial operation. So once we have this 800 megawatts now on commercial operation and continuously generating into the grid, now we've got enough headroom to can do continuous. We continue with or have more headroom to continue with maintenance or can take out some of the units and do maintenance as required. And that would also give us, as I said, that ample capacity not to be in the situation where, we are constrained like we are now.
So what kind of a winter can South Africans look forward to? If I ask the question more pointedly, should South Africans be looking forward to the 10 months or so, or 11 months that went before in the year 2024? Or can we look forward to what has now become the, not even new reality, but the reality almost reverting back to load shedding remains something that is always a possibility?
Yeah, you are correct that 2024 we gave South Africans a load shedding free winter. So on the 3rd of April we will be announcing our winter outlook. But we are at this stage we are confident that we will be with the 800 megawatts that we've just synchronized, with the 800 megawatts that we are expecting from Medupi end of April, and in July we will also be bringing in the Kusile, the Kubek Unit 1. That is now added together is the 2,500 megawatts that we said we have been. It has been our strategic objective to actually add back those megawatts. So we are confident that it won't be, any of the worst winters that we have seen in the past years. And I think we just still reiterate that South Africans won't be seeing, the kind of load shedding or frequency of load shedding that they've seen in 2023.
All right. And then in terms of the other units that had suffered a technical setback, I think it was about a year or 2 years ago, also at Kusile. Where do we stand with that? I see that you're now talking about this wet flue gas desulfurization technology, quite a mouthful. Yes. But the technical setback had exactly to do with that, with those systems. How is the new system different from the old system, and have you brought back those other units?
So as you would remember, we had taken out 3 units because of that incident that had happened, but we had to repair. We had the whole year to repair this flue gas desulfurization technology. So where we are now, we had relinked the first unit, which is Unit 3. It's back online using this wet flue gas desulfurization technology repaired. And we are busy currently with Unit 2, meaning that Unit 2 has been taken out. And this is one of the reasons, Thulasizwe, that actually are making us also a bit constrained in terms of capacity, because we've taken one of also one of the most reliable units. Ever since last year, end of last year, we've been, Kusile has been running short of one unit because we've been actually busy with this project. So now we're busy with Unit 2, as I said, and just in a few days, we will be bringing back that Unit 2 and taking out Unit 1, which will be the last unit that will now be connecting to the repaired flue gas desulfurization technology. And then we will be done with that project and in compliance with what the DFFE minister has actually allowed us.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Stephanie, thank you for that. That's Stephanie Mukwena, the ESCOM spokesperson there.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Are we ready for a real conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Let's move on to this story now. The ongoing trial of Kelly Smith, accused of orchestrating the kidnapping and human trafficking of her 6-year-old daughter, Jocelyn, has revealed shocking and disturbing details. Jocelyn disappeared from her home in Saldanha Bay in February 2024. Allegations have emerged that Smith sought the services of a traditional healer for her child, possibly driven by a desire for money. The case has captivated this country as Jocelyn remains missing, and the trial continues to expose troubling information surrounding her mother's alleged actions and motives. Let's speak to Mbaimbai Hlati, who is the president of the Southern African Development Community SADC, Unified Ancestors Traditional Practitioners. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. The big question I have is, how is it possible that despite all the talk about integrating traditional healers and practitioners into the system of healthcare in the country, such that they are respected as practitioners in their own right, steeped in the histories and traditions of the people of this country, how is it that we still are able to talk about instances where a traditional healer is believed to have been consulted for nefarious purposes such as these, with the result that the allegation is that the child was probably sold to a traditional healer? How's that even possible?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning, SAFM listeners. It's unfortunately in this still people believe that the human body part or human body blood can still assist people. It's unfortunately to Thulasizwe and your listeners. You must remember, some years ago, we used to have these ritual killings, ritual murders, and I had a very huge campaign to educate communities, to educate young people, old and traditional healers or practitioners, to say there is no such thing. People must not be fooled. It's now 2025, there's still people who believe that to sell a human body part or to sell your child or your cousin to a traditional healer, a fake traditional healer, let me call this particular person a fake or a bongus traditional healer, because we traditional practitioners, we don't use any body part, any blood from human being. We use a fat from animals and root and plant, etc. So I believe this particular person, she or he did not understand how to help the particular client who went there or she went there for seek for help. So the shortcut, she thought maybe if I tell this person, bring your child, bring your brother, and then let's kill him or her so that we can use the body part or eyes or ears, etc., or private part, because she did not understand how to use herbs. So it's unfortunately because if you don't understand how to use herbs, we have a big organization here that we can assist traditional healers, because this is putting a bad a bad signal to our practice. Like you just said, that the government want to integrate, want to recognize the traditional practitioners, but if this kind of things happen, it's unfortunately Thulasizwe.
So is there nothing more that can be done by practitioners such as yourself and other organizations working with the established structures to sort of have, I don't know, a kind of a code of ethics and a binding code and perhaps binding rules for traditional practitioners, or would that be too much regulation for traditional health practice?
It's not too much regulation. You know, we have code of ethics in SADC organization. What is happening here is, like I said initially, that those are the bongers, those are not healers, those are the fake ones. You know, from 1995, when government recognized traditional practitioners, everybody wanted to be a traditional healer. Everybody wanted to be a sangoma. People, they don't understand. It's a calling to become a traditional healer. You don't just want to be or like to be, or you just go and buy a regalia and you put dress like a traditional healer and people think you are a traditional healer. That's why people should be very, very careful when you look for assistance. So it's not too much. We do have those code of ethics, we have those code of conduct, but the problem is the government also is not assisting us as they're supposed to do. We don't have a council of traditional practitioners, a permanent council. Always we have a temporary one, and then within 2-3 months or 1 year, they disband the council. We start again. For many years, even now, we don't have a council of traditional practitioners that they can overlook on how the practice work, how the traditional healer graduate, who is the traditional healer and who is Sangoma, who is not. That is the unfortunate part of it, Thulasizwe.
Would that help if there was a more permanently appointed traditional healers, practitioners council as opposed to an interim one? Would that help? Have your members, for example, taken up the registration process with the energy and zeal that you would have expected?
We have been doing that for years, and we have been complaining to different ministers that please do let us have a permanent council of traditional practitioners. But unfortunately, our minister of health, it can be Joe Patha, it can be the recent one that we have. When we communicate with them, does not look that they have interest on assisting traditional practitioners because they're even battling on the health sector. That's why sometimes in some meetings we raise the question that why can't we have someone who's going to look after this sector of traditional practice? Because we have too much job, and you have different beliefs. Some of the ministers are Christians, some of the ministers are Muslims. They don't care. They don't have any interest in helping traditional practitioners. So if we have a permanent one, definitely Thulasizwe, that will assist us because they will have a regulatory rules. They will have in all the province and all the districts so that we know who is the healer, who is the fake, who is the correct one.
All right. Thank you for your insights this morning. That's Mbambai Hlati, who is the president of the Southern African Development Community, Unified Ancestors Traditional Practitioners. Let's check in now with Kulufelo Tefo with the latest news headlines.
Thanks to Thulasizwe. In the headlines, the SAWA ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile says he is confident that a solution will be found with the current impasse over the passing of the budget. Political parties like the EFF, DA and Action SA have opposed their budget as they do not support an increase in VAT. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has called for calm in Soshanguve, north of Pretoria. This followed the arrest of 2 suspects linked to the brutal murder of 6 community patrollers at the Merrimie informal settlement on Saturday. And further afield, a rare anti-Hamas protest has taken place in northern Gaza. It is the biggest since October the 7th, 2023 attacks on Israel, with hundreds of Palestinians taking part. This and more at the top of the hour.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Traffic headlines this morning. Heavy getting up Joburg's N3 North. There's a couple of crash scenes, one before Galuli's and one after Galuli's at Linksfield Road. So you put that together, and it's a really big delay coming through from the Elands interchange deep in Germiston all the way through Galuli's and up to Edenvale. N12 and R24 routes behind that, coming from Ekurhuleni, heavily backed up as well. The N1 South fairly slow this morning. Brockfontein to about New Road. The N14, now if you're driving up to Pretoria on the Krugersdorp Highway, going to be asked to queue this morning between the R55 Pretoria West exit and Brockfontein interchange. You might want to exit at the R55 to avoid that. N1 South out of Pretoria, slow down towards Atterbury Road, and major delays coming in off the Mopani Highway or down from Pretoria North. Crash on Eskie and Patvalley at Vanderhof. That's really badly backing up multiple routes in that area. Durban, as we've been alluding, the N2 North, heavier than normal, queuing from Cement Factory all the way up to Westwood Mall. The M7 towards the Bluff, queuing down to Bel Air and Wakesley this morning. Cape Town, R300, Delft to Cowes Rivers, Funerific, off-ramp is busy. Kuberg Road, heading out towards Killarney Gardens, queues passing the refinery area, and the M5 crash at Klipfontein Road has been cleared, but it's left a really busy M5 this morning from sort of Grassy Park territory all the way up to the N2 highway exit. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Hey, Dumi, good morning to you once again. You know what has happened with this Bafana situation, the player with the yellow card and Lesotho not complaining in time?
Yeah.
It just sounds to me,
Yeah.
like, you know, in law, it's like a special plea. It's getting off on a technicality.
Absolutely.
You know very well that if this was to be prosecuted properly, you would have problems.
But listen, it's not even fully confirmed because Lesotho, from Lesotho's side, they say they're still going to complain.
see.
And at the
Even
end,
though it's out of bounds.
even though it's out of bounds, so they're yet to hear what the final word is. So basically, everything is hanging in the balance over there.
But nevertheless, we've been hearing from the coach, and he continues to be a straight talker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Bafana coach Hugo Bruce has admitted that building a competitive side has taken time, but hard work is finally paying off. South Africa took a huge step towards qualifying for the FIFA World Cup in 2026 with a 2-0 win over Benin last night to go 5 points clear at the top of Group C with 13 points after 6 games. In other group matches, Nigeria drew 1-1 with Zimbabwe, while Rwanda and Lesotho also finished 1-1. Rwanda is currently second with 8 points, tied with third place Benin, while Nigeria have 7, Lesotho 6, and Zimbabwe 4. In the meantime, Iran booked their spot in the 2026 World Cup after a 2-2 home draw against Uzbekistan yesterday. Moving on to cricket, Punjab Kings claimed an 11-run win over Gujarat Titans in the Indian Premier League. Punjab captain Shiraz Iyer hit an unbeaten 97 off 47 balls. Then in athletics, World Athletics has approved the introduction of a one-time genetic test to determine if an athlete is biologically female. Now, a cheek swab test would be used to look for an SRY gene, while a dried blood spot test could also be used to determine an athlete's testosterone levels, in addition to the presence of the SRY gene. Head of World Athletics, Sebastian Coe, says that it's really important, or this is a really important way of protecting the female category. In tennis, Aryna Sabalenka battled back in the second set to advance into the semifinals of the Miami Open with a 6-2 and 7-5 win over China's Zheng Qinwen, and she next faces Jasmine Paolini, and then Novak Djokovic cruised into the quarterfinals of the tournament with a 6-2 and 6-2 win over Lorenzo Musetti in 1 hour and 22 minutes. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again. In Tauleng, you keep coming with news that I really would rather not hear. But let's hear it. Tell me about South Africa shedding jobs in 2024.
Yes, that's right, Thulas. And, you know, the job market experiencing a decline last year with 91,000 jobs lost, according to Stats SA's quarterly employment survey. Now, total employment slipped 0.8% year on year between December 2023 and December 2024, with both full-time and part-time employment taking a hit. Full-time employment decreased by 0.3%. More of the pain was felt in part-time employment, which declined 5.3%. But But there is somewhat of a silver lining. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, employment improved, adding 12,000 jobs. Salaries also saw an increase, with basic salary wages paid to employees rising 1.1% quarter-on-quarter. This growth was driven by industries such as community services, trade, manufacturing, and construction. Year-on-year, basic salary or wages increased by 4%, while bonus payments rose 3.2%. Now, these figures suggest that while the job market still faces challenges, there are signs of improvement and growth in certain sectors, but nothing to be too happy about.
Yeah. And then at the same time, Darling, tell me about the conditions specifically in the construction industry. It's one of those that we watch for, yielding jobs whenever it does yield jobs. Tell me about the conditions improving in that sector.
And, we just talked about the employment figures, and the construction sector was one of those sectors that added jobs that fueled the quarter-on-quarter growth. And we are seeing conditions in that sector experiencing a steady rebound, with the Afrimat Construction Index showing improvement for the third consecutive quarter. And this marks the first time the industry has seen such consistent growth since the pandemic lockdowns. Now, the latest index findings for the fourth quarter of 2024 indicate a return to pre-pandemic levels, boosting confidence among builders, developers, and investors. Now, according to Roelof Botha, who compiles the index, the construction sector is on a strong growth path, outpacing real GDP growth. The index's year-on-year rise of 2.5% surpasses the 0.5% real GDP growth. Now, Botha attributes the growth to factors such as cuts in the repo rate and increased economic activity during that quarter. The latest index shows 5 of the 10 indicators experiencing year-on-year growth, and Afrimat CEO Andries van Heerden expressed optimism about the sector's prospects, stating that Afrimat remains poised for growth with the capacity to supply any improvement in the sector. Now, the company has expanded its asset base in the mining, quarrying, cement, and related industries, and has completed the integration of Lafarge. So they are poised, to benefit from the upbeat momentum we are seeing in that sector.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting little factors and dynamics that you monitor that tell you the bigger story of the economy.
Yeah.
It gives you a snapshot, is the construction industry. Please give us another update of the markets for this morning, Dowling.
So kicking things off in Asia, now stocks trading in a tight range as investors searched for a clear direction amid weaker U.S. consumer confidence and uncertainty about President Trump's upcoming tariffs. With that, we're seeing the Japanese Nikkei making the biggest gains on that front, trading just over 1% higher. Moving over to the U.S., futures are flat, that as uncertainty continues to be the name of the game. Investors on that front awaiting market-moving catalysts. And then coming back home, stocks in the green in yesterday's session, with the all-share closing over 0.8% higher. But we are seeing some weakness coming through on the currency front as the dollar makes gains. The rand is currently sitting at 18.29 to the greenback.
All right, that's Ntauling Lichela. She'll be back with more insights for you in the third hour of the show, just after 8:30, during which update she will also give you a sense of what kind of a day to expect in the markets on this Wednesday.
Over the last 50 years, one man has played an unparalleled part in transforming British society. This man is Rupert Murdoch. Feared by politicians, Murdoch has built the biggest media operation on the planet. His empire has given him extraordinary power and influence. The rise of the Murdoch family is an electrifying study of the Murdoch dynasty, charting the ups and downs of an empire. From the ambition that fueled its success, to the criminality that led to the closure of the News of the World and the Leveson Inquiry. This is The Rise of the Murdoch Family. Thursdays at 10 p.m. starts 13 February, only on S3.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Raz Sipho Mantula. Sipho, good morning. So in our update this morning, we start with the situation in the DRC and the efforts of these regional blocs, the EAC and SADC. You are telling us this morning that they've expanded the team of mediators involved in that conflict.
Fresh morning, Thulas, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, what we saw, what we can say is part of the communique of the SADC of the SADC and the East Africa Community virtual meeting that they held on Monday, that they've expanded their team of mediators looking at Ethiopia and also South Africa and also Central African Republic. We saw former President Kgalema Motlanthe being brought in, the ex-president of CAR, Catherine Samba Panza, and as well as in Ethiopia, the former president of Ethiopia, Sahle-Work Zwede, being involved. Uhuru Kenyatta, Obasanjo are still part of the team. As we know, Thulas, as I said on Monday, the pulling out of Angola from the mediation process have allowed this East Africa Community to beef up this mediation team, and they had to choose one mediator out of four so that they can manage this crisis between Eastern DRC, Kinshasa, M23 as well as Rwanda.
Yeah, but at the height of the exchange of harsh words between South Africa and the Rwandan president, Paul Kagame, he made the point that South Africa, having been involved in the way that we've been, we cannot be seeking to then be playing the role of mediator. So I'm interested, Sipho, to find out about this visit by the defense minister of the DRC to this country.
That visit was very important, and it was only on over the weekend, but Monday they met with our Ministry of Military Veterans, and now from the DRC, Guy Kambombo was the one who was visiting the Minister of Defense from DRC. As they were saying to us, it's more of a bilateral, to strengthen bilateral defense relations between South Africa and DRC, particularly to us considering the issues of intelligence gathering, medical support, and also the training of looking at their strategy, the DRC military strategy for 2026-2030. That's where the meeting was very important. Minister Inji Motshekga, the Deputy Minister Bantolo Misa also was part of welcoming the DRC minister in terms of how they can exchange, particularly also at the backdrop to us of the East Africa Community and SADC meeting that was held on Monday in terms of how to move now with the timelines and the time frame of how do we mediate and how do we phase out the peacekeeping forces or the intervention forces that was in the Eastern DRC.
You know, Sipho, I can't hide my own personal disappointment with just how South Sudan has battled to establish a long-lasting peace in that country, because like all of us as Africans, I was truly proud when that country was founded based on that principle of African solutions to African problems. Tell me what's being said about the potential of South Sudan relapsing into civil war.
This is coming from the special representative of the Secretary General and the head of the UN mission in South Sudan, Nicholas Haysom, who have actually tried to bring what we call shuttle diplomacy by bringing the international and regional peace partners, the AU, Intergovernmental Authority, IGAD, and the reconstituted Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Committee, saying that it appears that the conflict that has been between the White Army that has overrun the barracks of the South Sudan People's Defense Force early this month will definitely launch
or will definitely plunge the South Sudan into a serious conflict to us, considering the region having conflict in the DRC, having conflict in the North Sudan, that will definitely affect the South Sudan. So, I mean, he has been trying to us to say, if we don't resolve this crisis of the South Sudan, it is also in the hands of both President Salva Kiir and the Vice President, the first Vice President Riek Machar, to come out in public to us and talk about the commitment to peace. Because as you have said, since 2013, the South Sudan, from 2011, referendum to be separated from North Sudan, since 2013 to us, when the two factions from SPLM North, there was a crisis until today, and the special rep talking also about the 2018 Addis Ababa peace agreement, that if they can speak to it to us, they will manage this conflict.
So tell me about the new AU Commission chairperson, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. He has hit the ground running, hasn't he, with dealing with the situation in Somalia and the kind of support that will be provided there.
To us, it was the Somalian government and the leadership that invited the AU newly elected chairperson, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. In terms of looking at the issues of international support, I mean, the international support and the regional lobby coming from the AU of additional troops to Somalia, because it appears that the Al-Shabaab group, it is also attempting to attack the capital city. Now, the visit was all about how can the AU stabilize Somalia, to us, taking into account that Somalia also has been on a serious warfare with the armed groups, and at the same time with this conflict with Somaliland, with Ethiopia. But now, asking the AU to assist now with additional troops to us, it is the issue of the Al-Shabaab militants that have intensified in the past weeks.
And then lastly, Sipho, in our historical archives, take me back to 26 March 1960. What happened on this day of significance?
Tulas, I'm taking you back to 65 years ago when both the ANC leaders, led by King Albert Luthuli and the late President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, publicly banned their past books, Tulas, both in Tshwane, that was Chief Albert Luthuli, and Nelson Mandela and Dumanokwe, banning their passes in Orlando, in Soweto. And that's how it was to react to the Sharvilanga massacre. And also Albert Luthuli mentioned that the 28th of March, Tulas, will be a national day of mourning. Those are the interest years, Tulas, when you have to look at how the past books in our countries, we are calling them. I looked at 4 countries quickly, Tulas. In Kenya, they call it Kipande. In Zambia, Chitupa. Botswana, Baro Omang, Tulas, and then the former homeland of Botswana, they used to call it Ikiti. I don't know whether you know other names, Tulas, of this Dompas or this past book that black people were being subjected to carry in the early years of the imperialism.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think in Zimbabwe the ID is called Zwitupa. So the similarity, I think it was Zambia that you mentioned.
It's Chitupa, yes, Zambia, Chitupa, Kenya, Kipande. Botswana, very interesting.
Umazisi wako. All right, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula. Of course, those have to be distinguished, the ID documents established after independence, as opposed to things such as the passbooks, which carried a particular burden for segments of society. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update here on the Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
N3 running north stays heavy this morning from Germiston through to Edenvale, including a crash that you'll pass just by Linksfield Road. So put it all together, there's delays from Elands Interchange up to Montefontaine Road with that crash at Linksfield. N12 and R24, it's in from the east, quite heavy. A lot of traffic on the Mike 1 today from Boysons all the way through to Grayston Drive in the Santon area. The N1 quite slow to get off at Winnie Mandela. Lights are still down Winnie Mandela and Sloane, so the bridge is congested, and that always holds up the off-ramps turning south towards the bridge or towards Bryanston. And lights down Vicoppen and Main again this morning, so extra delays in that part of town as well. Coming through Pretoria, an earlier crash on Eskia Pathleli at Vanderhof has caused some delays coming down from Pretoria north. Eskia Pathleli into sort of Marabastad through that area is busy and has kept volumes high and speed slow on the Mopani Highway from the bend down towards Eskia Pathleli as well. Durban still jam-packed this morning on the M2 north in towards Westwood Mall. The M7 going towards the Bluff queuing down to Bel Air and Wakesley. That is traffic light slight problems at that junction. So from Queensborough, if you're Bluff bound, it's very slow going indeed. Peterboroughsburg to Ashburton checks fine at this hour. Cape Town R300 queuing from Delft up towards the Ribbick Road off-ramp to turn in towards Cales River or Belleville. Robert Sobukwe from Belleville South heading up towards Tiddy Mayor is quite heavy, and the roadworks on the N7 south at Goodwood will catch you out if you're not aware. Probably a good idea to stay away from this. You drop into a sort of single-lane section through Four-Tracker Road towards the railway bridge. Traffic is queuing all the way back to the N1. It queued all day yesterday, even at 7 p.m. last night. The N7 south was under pressure from Bosmansdown Road right down to Four-Tracker Road. So just stay off it. Use alternatives like Hill, Basson or Monte Vista Boulevard to get south as your alternatives into that Goodwood area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
What would your school do with 10 return flights from FlySafair? Imagine the possibilities. Sports trips, cultural tours, and the opportunity to unlock your learner's talent and potential. That's right. FlySafair's School Booster is back, and your school could be one of 10 to win 10 return flights to any SA destination. Enter at flysafair.co.za and tell us how this prize could give your school a boost. Entry close 27 March. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
What? Don't wake up to less money or no money in your account. Add an extra layer of security for unusual transactions. Nominate a trusted person on the Standard Bank banking app. If something seems off, they can decline transactions for you, even while you sleep. Get trusted person on your banking app today. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more. Another lesson to #BeatTheScam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
7 minutes to 8 here on the Morning Brief. Let's move on to this conversation now. The Department of Home Affairs is set to launch an upgraded digital identity verification system. This is, framed as a major step in modernizing public services in this country. Minister Leon Schreiber has emphasized that this move, part of government's push for greater efficiency, will streamline both public and private sector services from banking to social grants using biometric technologies like fingerprint and facial recognition. The minister joins me now to take that conversation forward. Minister, good morning and thank you for your time. Just for conceptual clarity, what exactly is this digital identity verification system and how does it differ from the digital ID that you and I spoke about that I understand you to be working towards?
Good morning to Thulasizwe. Yes, so the verification system is an existing system whereby private sector or public sector institutions like the banks or SASSA would actually be able to check your fingerprint or your facial recognition to confirm your identity. This would be for services like opening a bank account or getting a social grant payment. But we've seen huge problems with this for a number of years. So some of the users have reported that 50%, up to 50% of the queries don't get a response. In other cases, it could take up to 24 hours to get a response. And in some cases, they were riddled with errors, which then requires manual verification. So you can imagine the impact on someone trying to open a bank account who's not getting a response from Home Affairs, or someone who's trying to get a social grant payment. So that's an existing system. But what we've done now is to really optimize that. We've reduced the error rate to below 1% in our testing. The responses come within milliseconds now, and that's going to have really concrete benefits for anyone using these public or private services. As it relates to digital ID, you're right, this is not the same thing, but it is part of that process. Because, of course, what this enables us to do is to clean up and build investment into the National Population Register, which is really going to be the foundation for us of getting to a digital ID. Basically, the Population Register is something that itself requires major upgrading and reforms, because that's the database that really should sit at the heart of South African society. But when you have errors and these kind of issues, then it really undermines the quality and also the efficiency of using the Population Register.
Say a bit more about that, Minister, the integrity of the data on the National Population Register. This is the register where when a child is born and they get a birth certificate, that's where it is all recorded. When a person dies, it's recorded there. What's the status of the integrity of that information? Because you rightly say, if that information doesn't have the data integrity that it should have, then we're going to have big problems.
Yes, I mean, if you think about all of the work that Home Affairs is doing, whether it's getting more people to get smart ID so that we can move away from the green ID book, whether it is the digital ID, and including your immigration reforms, the electronic travel authorization, so that we can actually get information on people who are entering and exiting the country, then you'll see that all of this should actually feed into one central database. Now, the issues that we have in South Africa related to things like identity theft and the green ID book, these are products that are, manipulated or defrauded. But in principle, where we have biometrics for people, that information in the National Population Register is generally of a higher standard. The problem is we've still got 18 million people on green ID books, and probably about half of them don't have biometrics. And of course, we've got many foreign nationals in South Africa who aren't required to provide us with biometrics at all. And that's where many of the problems come from. So we need to reform the way in which the population register itself works. And in many ways, all of the work that we're doing is aimed at creating that central database that is efficient, that people can verify against, that works quickly, and that is a cleaned up database and accurate.
So the other issue that I wanted to tease out with you, Minister, before we run out of time, has to do with this task team and the work that you're doing around clamping down on corruption. You've partnered with the SIU. Tell me about the work that has happened and the rates of convictions. I believe you've had about 27 officials that have been convicted between July and where we are, July 2024, and where we are. Is that higher than usual?
Yes, I think we're making much faster progress than in many other cases. Part of it is thanks to a proclamation signed by the President in May last year to authorize the Special Investigating Unit to look into corruption issues in this sector. But it's also because of the relationships that we've built and that really have now been formalized through the creation of this Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. It brings together in a formal way Home Affairs, the Border Management Authority, the SIU, the Hawks, and the National Prosecuting Authority. But as you say, it's not a new thing. It's actually just formalizing the work that's already going on. As a result of this collaboration and really the focus on ensuring that there's accountability for corruption in this space, we have dismissed 27 officials since July of last year. 8 or 9, I think, have been convicted, prison sentences between 4 and 18 years. I think that sends quite a strong message. A further 11 officials have been dismissed from the Border Management Authority, and there are many more cases now that are pending and that are also making their way through the courts. So I think that this is indeed setting a new pace in how we can deal with corruption in South Africa.
I don't want you to be meddling in the work of Parliament and the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Minister, but the marriage bill is out on public consultation and some interesting insights are coming in. I'm just wondering if you are able to weigh in on some of the perspectives, the debates around raising the marriage consent age from 18 to 21, as well as some of what the committee has been picking up around a certain degree of resistance among some religious leaders to including same-sex marriages within this consolidated new marriage act that they are working on.
Well, I think, as you said, it really is a parliamentary process now. So I think we should allow that process to play out. This is exactly what public participation is designed for. And I think the committee and Parliament is really now focused on fulfilling its duty there. I think that's really what I can say. And maybe just to add, of course, that, any piece of legislation must ultimately be measured against the Constitution. And I think that too will help us, as we go forward in this process to clarify any issues. And, that just provides us the anchor essentially for dealing with any questions that people do have.
Yeah, I like how you navigated that, not wanting to weigh in too much at this particular point. Thank you for that. That's Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber. Let's check in now with Kulufelo Defo with the latest news.
Thanks to Thulasizwe. Top stories. The Sawa Mashatile confident that budget impasse will be resolved and hundreds join anti-Hamas protest. Good morning. ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile says he is confident that a solution will be found with the current impasse over the passing of the budget. Mashatile spoke to SABC News in Alexandra, Johannesburg yesterday. Political parties like the EFF, DA and Action SA have made it clear that they won't vote for the budget as they do not support an increase in VAT. Mashatile says the ANC is engaging with parties regarding the matter.
Well, we have to engage with other parties. It's something that we will always do. When there are issues, we talk, and I'm confident that we will resolve the differences.
Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has called for calm in Soshanguve, north of Pretoria. This followed the arrest of 2 suspects linked to the brutal murder of 6 community patrollers at the Merime informal settlement on Saturday. The suspects are expected to appear before the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. 4 of the victims remain in hospital, while 2 others have since been discharged. Mchunu says that communities must continue to work together in fighting crime, while police are mobilizing resources to make sure the remaining suspects are arrested.
Communities must not be deterred. They must not, conclude that standing up for the people against crime, it will always be like this. It's not. Part of the reason why we went there was to assure them that we've deployed more police and more vehicles, and also that we've started arresting, although we're all worried and equally worried about those who are still at large. But we're dealing with the matter, and we're asking for stability in the area while people are alert.
Members of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Higher Education were left angry after being told about sexual harassment incidents at the Motheo TVET College in Bloemfontein. The Free State-based college says since 2022, 9 cases of sexual harassment of students by lecturers have been reported. Committee member Mahlodi Maseko says she's appalled to hear about such incidents at the institution.
You guys are not taking this serious. You talking about a block, that they are another block, that side and other side, another block. So let's take this kids serious. This institution is about the kids, not the adults that feel that they've got access to the kids, they can do as they wish. And until the management of this institution take that serious, you won't have about 9 cases for 1 year, 9 cases of sexual harassment. It's really pathetic to hear the report like this.
The Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration has raised concerns about dilapidated infrastructure at Mahikeng Provincial Hospital in the northwest. They discovered this during an oversight visit to the hospital yesterday, saying the old building is in urgent need of revamping. There have also been reports of poor service delivery and an overall untidiness at the hospital. Whilst the ANC spoke about the need for a slight improvement at the hospital, other parties in the committee disagreed. Wezizwe Kotiwe of the ANC, the EFF's Thulasizwe Simelane and Jafta Malinga of the MK party elaborates.
There are areas, minor renovations are required to be done. We just come from the nurses' home where we said renovations must be done of the nurses' home.
This is precisely because of the financial mismanagement in the province and the corruption of government officials. So that's why that you find out that the hospital in itself is not even renovated because they take that money for themselves.
If there's going to be an alignment, someone is coming through the intervention to act, and there's someone behind that person, where the person that is acting will transfer the skills.
Meanwhile, the acting chief executive officer of the hospital, Patience Maika Bang, says the hospital has a challenge of specialist doctors.
Mahikeng Provincial Hospital is limited, and also with the resources like specialists, we are also limited in terms of the specialists that we can employ to Mahikeng Provincial Hospital with the resources that they will need to make sure that they provide those kind of services. So we are utilizing our tertiary hospital, which is Tlexop Tsepong. That's where we refer our our patients for advanced clinical management of any other condition that Mafeking cannot be able to handle.
And finally, further afield, a rare anti-Hamas protest has taken place in northern Gaza. It is the biggest since October the 7th, 2023 attacks on Israel, with hundreds of Palestinians taking part. Videos show young men shouting Hamas out. Masked men were seen trying to disperse the demonstrators with guns. The group supporters have played down the significance of the protest and called those taking part traitors. Recapping the top story this hour, ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile says he is confident that a solution will be found with the current impasse over the passing of the budget. Political parties like the EFF, DA and Action SA have opposed their budget as they do not support an increase in VAT. Headlines at 8:30 for SFM News. I'm Kulofelo Defo.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Crash on Joburg's Mike 1 south at Caller Drive. So if you're moving from Woodmead via Santon on your way down to Joburg, quite a backlog into that. In fact, you'll probably pick that up as you come off the N1 at Buccleuch all the way down through to Caller Drive. Motorists going north up to Santon having a look, and that's causing delays as well. Heavy pressure on the N1 to come off at Willie Mandela. Lights are still down Willie Mandela and Sloane, so the bridge is busy, and you run into some real problem on those exits because of that congestion. The N1 north is quite slow. Coming off the N14 Krugersdorp Highway through Bruckfontein down towards the John Foster exit into the Centurion area. Very slow this morning. Durban, no traffic lights. M7 at Bel Air and Wakesley. If you are Bluff bound, that's a queue that starts right back in the Queensborough area today. Pietermaritzburg, Ashburton, all the delays there earlier have cleared up. And Cape Town, Marine Drive, super heavy this Wednesday as you come through from sort of Sunset Beach territory, Milnerton, all the way to Milner Road in Pardon Island. And avoid this one. The N7 going south and drops to a single lane for roadworks around Fort Trekker Road, right in the heart of Goodwood. The backlog is through towards almost Bosmansdam Road. If you've got to go south, come off of Bosmansdam Road, look for Kiel, Basson or Montevista, those sort of options to get you into the Goodwood area quicker, much quicker than the N7 Southwell. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Lesotho confirmed query sent to FIFA over Mogwena's yellow cards and Valencia to host MotoGP until 2031. More details at 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 9 minutes after 8 on this Wednesday. Hey, good morning and welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It's great to be in your company this morning. Just recapping on some of the conversations we've been having this morning. We've been talking a bit about the work that the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs has been doing in terms of public consultation towards a new marriage bill. As things stand, our marriage laws reside in various pieces of legislation, and it can all get quite complicated, and it has gone to the Constitutional Court quite a number of times, with the result that the decision was then taken that says consolidate everything, recognize every regime of marriage that is out there that should be recognized, including religious marriages. So that's the work that they are trying to do. But in doing that work, the committee is telling us that they've encountered some interesting trends, among them, especially in the Eastern Cape, where they've been having these public hearings recently. A proposal that says the age of 18 for consent to marriage is quite young. People are you're still a young person. You don't have your wits about you as much as you should, yet here you are being allowed to take consequential legal decisions, right? That change your status as a person with proprietary consequences as well. So the proposal that the committee is telling us that they've been hearing is that the age of consent for marriage should actually be raised from 18 to 21. That's one of the proposals, and I've been wanting to hear from you what your thoughts are about that. Of course, part of that, part of what they've been picking up in those public hearings is a fair amount of opposition among some religious leaders to same-sex marriages being included in this consolidated bill that they are working on. So in this hour, I'll be speaking to Thulasizwe Simelane of Outright International, Africa Programs Officer, and we'll be talking about that particular aspect that has to do with some of the resistance that they are picking up from religious leaders. That's just one of the conversations we've been having. We've been talking about ESCOM and the coming on stream of Unit 6 at Gusile and the prospects for what that means for the issue of load shedding and the prospects for winter. What kind of a winter we can look forward to, as well as the conversation we were having towards the end of the last hour, where we were talking about the digital identity verification system that the Department of Home Affairs has introduced, as well as the work that they've been doing to try and curb corruption within the systems at Home Affairs, as well as the Border Management Authority. So those are some of the highlights of the last few hours, the last 2 hours. But I'd like to hear more from you. Share with me what's exercising your mind this morning. Give me a call, and the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032, and also I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
All right, it's just gone 12 minutes after 8. Let's start this hour with this story now. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs is currently busy with public hearings into the proposed new marriage bill. The bill is an attempt to consolidate the country's various marriage laws and bring all of them in line with the Constitution. Currently, marriages are recognized under laws such as the Marriages Act, the Civil Unions Act, Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, but with no provision for religious marriages such as Muslim marriages to be recognized properly in law. So, you know, as they undertake these public hearings, a few themes are emerging from the work that the committee has been having in the public hearings. And key among them has been the popular proposal that I've been telling you about for the age of consent for marriage to be raised from 18 to 21. There has also been a fair amount of opposition among some religious leaders to same-sex marriages being included in the same bill. Let's speak to Thulasizwe Simelane, who is the Africa Programs Officer at Outright International. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Are you surprised that one aspect, the aspect that has to do with the fair amount of opposition and resistance by some religious leaders to same-sex marriages being included in this consolidated marriage bill? Are you surprised by that?
Good morning to the listeners. And no, we are not surprised by this. We know that there are a number of religious leaders from different sects and from different religious institutions that maintain very strong and vehement opposition to the inclusion of same-sex couples within their institutions. I do think, though, it's a really sad and disappointing point that in 2025, there still is a lack of reform to address the needs of individuals who subscribe to these different institutions and want to be a part of these communities and are being pushed back against.
So, as the way I understand it, there was a provision in the Civil Unions Act that allowed for marriage officers other than religious leaders to write to the minister and say, I would like to be excluded and excused from having to officiate and solemnize marriages between same-sex couples, and that has fallen off. It was repealed about a few years ago. How do you understand the resistance by religious leaders compared to that provision having fallen off?
Well, I think it's important to note that the Civil Union Amendment Act came into force because there was practical discriminations that prevented same-sex couples from obtaining the same legal recognition for their unions. And in that, we found that there were a number of different home affairs premises where same-sex couples were applying to have their unions solemnized, there wouldn't be a single officer who is designated to fulfill that role. And I think the controversial aspect is that the people who are entrusted with solemnizing the unions in these offices are not religious leaders. They're not people who play an active role in upholding or maintaining the values of different religious institutions. They're merely employed by the state to fulfill a clearly clerical role that is administrative in nature. So this is one of the areas where, because it's related to same-sex couples and the sexual orientation that some people may be uncomfortable with, government officials were given the opportunity to shy away and not fulfill their duty. But we don't have those same provisions applying in other areas where we have high school teachers having to take biology and explain how contraception and abortion may work to young students. So why does that apply in the role of people who solemnize unions?
Yeah, and that's different, isn't it, Teruna? Because that applied to civil servants charged with being marriage officers at home affairs. This is different from religious leaders who have to apply and may be recognized by the minister as marriage officers. So what approach do you believe would work in trying to bring on board religious leaders, as many of them as possible? Is there an approach that would achieve this goal that is set out in our constitution of stamping out any form of discrimination?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that in 2006, when the Fourie case was decided on, the Constitutional Court did in fact find that the common law definition of marriage was actually discriminatory against same-sex couples. And I believe that there are many different religious institutions that have taken time to reflect and address this imbalance. And we have seen in the past few years that some churches are more welcoming and opening up to solemnizing same-sex unions. We do believe that through constructive engagement with religious and traditional leaders, we can eventually get to a point where they may feel comfortable enough to fully open the doors and allow individuals who are a part of those communities, who grew up in specific churches, finally be able to have their relationships being recognized and celebrated within the auspices of the institutions that they are a part of.
Someone listening might say, why is this aspect important, that religious leaders should be the ones who oversee and solemnize marriages between same-sex couples, even in situations where, on a fundamentalist reading of the tenets of their faith does not allow for that? Why is that aspect important in a situation where same-sex couples, there's no hindrance to them going to home affairs and having officials who now cannot object as they used to be able to object, just solemnize? Why is that aspect important?
Well, I think it's really important to understand that the law has a provision that is available, and the Civil Union Act in itself was not designed in a way to really address the findings of the Constitutional Court in the Fourie case. It instead prompted the legislature to come up with an alternative route, which then had a different set of standards for same-sex couples to meet in order to be able to solemnize their unions. And in asking religious leaders to consider or come to the table, we're essentially asking, do you want to continue holding space within your churches, within your communities, for a celebration of love? And I think that we have seen religious leaders such as the recently deceased Imam Hendricks take a very strong approach towards rather looking at how can we create inclusive spaces where people who believe in love, people who have grown up with a love for whichever God it is that they believe in, are able to continue to celebrate and feel welcomed in fellowship with their fellow community members. So I do think that it may be a difficult question for many religious leaders to address, but I think that learning from their peers and taking lessons from those who have stood up and have tried to create better inclusion may help with reconciling the letter of the law with the letter of the religious text that you follow.
Tirona, if you don't mind, please hold on for a second. Let me bring into the conversation one of our listeners, Rihanna in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Rihanna. You want to weigh in on this conversation? Rihanna, can you hear us? No, we seem to be battling a little bit.
Hello?
Yes, we've got you now. Yes, please go ahead.
All right, good morning. I hope you're all well.
Very well. Please go ahead.
What I'd like to share my thoughts on the age for marriage to be raised to 21. That is really open to interpretation in terms of the emotional maturity that people have and the preparedness that they have to get married. I know many youth of 18 and younger who have the emotional maturity to be married, who actually realize that there are more factors involved than just the feelings and the emotions. And then, of course, I know many grown-ups, me included, who did not realize that compatibility measures are much more important to make the marriage work. For example, the lifestyle differences, the opinions, the origin, sociality, models, and all the different romanticism, because many people place a lot of emphasis on romanticism. And like I said, I'm one of those grown-ups who was well over 21, who I was governed by my love and my feelings, not realizing that compatibility is more important. And age is not a factor, should not be a factor in terms of determining whether the person has the intellectual capacity or the emotional maturity.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Rihanna in Cape Town. They're weighing in on that conversation. Tirona, it's a slightly different aspect of these public hearings, but I wonder if you are able to weigh in the seemingly popular proposal that says the age of consent for marriage should actually be raised from 18 to 21.
I think that this is a very difficult question, and I would look at what the intention of the lawmaker is in raising the age. And I do think in this scenario, I think that they are driven by the understandings that not everyone has the maturity or the level of understanding of the responsibility in engaging in a union of this nature. And I would beg listeners to consider the question of what is the harm in being asked to wait? What is really lost by asking young people to wait the additional 3 years?
All right. Tirona, thank you for indulging us. I know that we had invited you on a specific aspect. I appreciate you indulging even on this aspect. That's Tirona Naidu there. She is the Africa Programs Officer at the organization Outright International.
So you've heard OutSurance clients talking about all the money they saved when they switched. You've thought about getting a quote, but you're not sure if they could save you money on your car insurance or if it's worth the effort. Well, make today the day you get an OutSurance quote. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. If OutSurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Either way, you're a winner, like Thulani.
Fast, helpful, efficient, everything was so smooth. I saved 530 bucks.
Make today the day you switch and save. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With OutSurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, so let's hear a bit from you from some of the topics and conversations that we have started. Let me start with this one that has to do with the workings at Home Affairs and the attempt to digitize the identity verification systems.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Can we please ask the Minister for Home Affairs if Mr. Phil Craig, the leader of the Cape Independence, is he a South African citizen? And if he's not, he's just got a permanent residence. Can his residence permit be withdrawn because he's busy lobbying? He's threatening to lobby foreign governments to interfere in South African domestic issues.
All right, thank you for that. Unfortunately, I picked it up after we were done with the conversation with the Minister of Home Affairs, but it's an interesting point that you make. I tell you what, I've just been thinking about this situation with people such as Mr. Craig and others. There's a sense in which we in the media need to take responsibility for amplifying a message that, objectively speaking, even based on their attempts to stand in elections in this country, really doesn't have a constituency. It has a minuscule constituency, and we end up giving it more prominence and airing than it actually deserves. I've just been reflecting a little bit about that to say, you know, how much prominence do you give to a voice that really, really objectively speaking, not talking censorship or shutting down other voices, but in every society you have fringe voices that objectively speaking don't resonate to any significant constituency. What's the benefit in amplifying that? It's a conversation I've been having with myself, and I've not come to a firm conclusion on that.
Hey, Thulas, when you're talking about the age of marriage that needs to be raised, I'm then reminded of my favorite talks show called Isencane Lengane. Look at Siyacela. What does Siyacela do and Tando? My goodness, please put it out there to your listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's Bongi here.
Bongi, I appreciate that. Siyacela and Tando, what do they do? Unfortunately, I've never really watched that particular show that you refer to, but I'm aware of it. That says Isencane Lengane. Let me see if I can take one or two calls. Zig in Randburg. Is Zig on the line? Zig,
yes,
good morning. Yes. You want to talk about marriages? Good morning to you.
Yes, thank you very, very much. I think it is highly important that romantic love be put into the foremost echelon of this new legislation. It must be celebrated, like one of your speakers just said, because it is the basis of a decent society, because romantic love is what brings about the total commitment of lovers like Romeo and Juliet, who are prepared to even die for each other.
Yeah, I didn't know you're such a romantic, Zig.
Indeed, because it is the essence of a decent society, an honorable society, where the commitment of the lovers makes for monogamous marriages. And you should never solemnize or give religious approval or any other approval to the multiple marriages of polygamy and whatever they call.
Why not, though?
Because they fritter away do not allow for that kind of commitment. I don't believe you should not
that's
honor
not true,
them
Zig.
like you
There are
should
many,
honor
many.
romantic love.
There are many polygamous marriages where there's such commitment. In fact, the commitment it goes to the extent that even the children born out of those families actually have these strong bonds between themselves, and it's a healthy family life for those who believe in polygamy in this country. I don't see how commitment fails simply because it's a marriage that is conceived through a different lens culturally.
Deep commitment is thoroughly monogamous, and it is not shared, and we must honor that. It is the basis of all social contracts, which includes our Constitution and the golden rule of Christ.
All right. Zig, let's leave it there for this morning. I've taken your point. That's Zig in Randburg there. I'll come back to your calls a bit later on, Scully and Kevin and Arnold and others, if you don't mind. We will call you back a bit later on the show. But for now, let's check in with Kulufelo Tefu with the latest news headlines.
Thanks to Thulasizwe. In the headlines this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa supports more stakeholder engagements on the new regulations banning the production, import and sale of any foods containing cannabis and hemp products. ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile says he is confident that a solution will be found with the current impasse over the passing of the budget. This as political parties like the EFF, DA and Action SA have opposed their budget as they do not support an increase in VAT. And business and labor are both concerned about the impact the loss of AGOA could have on the automotive sector. They convened for the second day of talks at the NUMSA Bargaining Conference in Sandton. Details at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Major delay alerts if you're using the Mike 1 highway this morning, coming off the N1 Midrand, south of Buccleuch, from that sort of point all the way down to the crash at Corlett Drive in the Melrose area. Very heavy through Woodmead, Sandton on your way to Melrose. That's going south to Joburg. Northbound on your way to Sandton, everybody getting caught up in that. So from Parktown through Melrose, that's heavy as well. Still queuing to get off of the William Mandela off-ramp. That's the lights at William Mandela and Sloane that are down. So you sort of come off the highway and you run into an absolute wall of traffic through there. Crash on the N12 leaving Benoni just past Atlas Road, causing some delays as well. Durban easing up quite nicely after a busy run through the traffic earlier this morning. A little bit of traffic just moving up through Spaghetti Junction towards Umgeta Road, but well off its worst. There is some pressure coming in on Chris Harney at Connaught Bridge if you're coming into Durban. There's a backlog of traffic to work through there. The M4 inbound on the Southern Freeway looking a bit slow as well. There are some roadworks that appear from time to time in that Jacobs Clearwood area. It looks like that again this morning. At Cape Town, just stay off the N7 across the course of the day. There's some roadworks going on the N7 South at Voortrekker Road, right in the heart of Goodwood. You sort of squeeze into a single lane as you get through Voortrekker down towards that railway bridge. The traffic backlog all the way through to Bosmansdam Road, back in that sort of Edgemead Summer Greens area. Even last night at 7 p.m, there was still a 30 or 40 minute delay to clear that run through. So N7 South into Goodwood, stay off at news routes like Monte Vista Boulevard or Gil Basson to get south and avoid it. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Hey, Tumi, good morning to you once again. You see the difficult thing about Lesotho, ne? Is that we depend on them for water, so we can't really take harsh measures against them. Although right now there's a bit of unhappiness.
A lot of unhappiness. Well, the Lesotho Football Association has confirmed that it has sent a query to FIFA over the yellow cards accumulated by Bafana midfielder Tebogo Mokoena in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Mokoena should have served an automatic one-match ban after being booked in Bafana's clash against Benin in 2023 and the fourth qualifier against Zimbabwe last year. Instead, the Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder played in last Friday's 2-0 win over Lesotho in Polokwane. And on claims that Lesotho should have protested 24 hours after the match, Lesotho FA Secretary General Mokosi Mohapi says that if the protest is valid, they expect FIFA to look into it and they are currently awaiting their response. So it's a developing story and we'll definitely keep you up to date as it develops. Elsewhere, Real Madrid are in talks over finalizing the signing of Liverpool fullback Trent Alexander-Arnold on a free transfer this season. Multiple sources close to the negotiations have told BBC Sport that while a deal is still to be fully agreed, work towards completing the transfer is reaching the closing stages, though nothing has yet been signed. Then in cricket, Ala Palaka has become the latest South African umpire to join the ICC elite panel of umpires after the international governing body unveiled its new lineup of umpires for the next 12 months. Palaka joins the 11 other umpires from around the world, including fellow South African Adrian Holstock on the elite panel, and has become the 7th South African umpire to feature on the panel. In motorsport, Valencia will continue to host a race in the MotoGP World Championship Series until 2031, first appearing on the calendar back in 1999. Valencia has hosted the final round of the season since 2002 and seen numerous world title battles such as in 2022 and 2023. Last season, the race scheduled for November was cancelled due to devastating and deadly flooding that hit the region, with part of the access road to the track washed away. In athletics, defending champion Glenrose Xaba will be putting her best foot forward at the Cape Town Spa Women's 10-kilometer challenge on Sunday, at the start of her campaign to become the fourth runner to win the Spa Grand Prix three times. 16,000 runners will take part in the Cape Town Spa sold-out race, which is the first of the 5 races making up the Spa Grand Prix series, in which Africa's elite runners compete for valuable points. Meanwhile, World Athletics have approved the introduction of a one-time genetic test to determine if an athlete is biologically female. Now, a cheek swab test would be used to look for the SRY gene, while a dried blood spot test could also be used to determine an athlete's testosterone levels, in addition to the presence of the SRY gene. Now, head of World Athletics, Sebastian Coe, says that this is a really important way of protecting the female category. Then in tennis, Aryna Sabalenka battled back in the second set to advance into the semifinals of the Miami Open with a 6-2 and 7-5 win over Zheng Qinwen, and next faces Jasmine Paolini, while Novak Djokovic cruised into the quarterfinals of the tournament with a 6-2, 6-2 win over Lorenzo Musetti in 1 hour and 22 minutes. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. More on other sports this afternoon with Zaikan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling Lechela. So Ndauling, I think I saw this story. Pepco is beefing up its adult wear offering, and you're saying that they've made this massive, this big acquisition.
That's right, Thulas. Really exciting news. Pepco expanding, making an acquisition and snapping up legit swagger, style, and Boardmans from Retailability. That is the private company that had acquired Edgar's. Now, Pepco didn't confirm the price tag of the deal, but the retailer said it's less than 2% of its market value, which is about 97 billion rand. So the market has valued the deal at about 1.9 billion rand. Now, Pepco says it'll pay for these assets in cash, and the retailer says this move is part, of course, of that strategy to expand its market share in adult wear through organic and acquisitive growth. Now, the acquisition will add 462 stores across South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, Namibia, and Eswatini to Pepco's portfolio. Now, if you remember, the group had already spearheaded this strategy into the adult wear range late last year when it acquired about 100 choice clothing stores. It's also launched a women's wear brand recently, I think in around February, called Ayana. So they really are trying to beef up that range or gain more market share in that range. The group believes that the legit brand will expand its product offering in the adult market, especially in women's wear. The acquisition of Swagger and Style is expected to provide strong synergies on that front as well, expanding Pepco's store portfolio and market share in adult wear. The Boardman's online brand, which operates in the homeware product segment, will become part of Pepco's lifestyle business. Analysts in the meantime were quite excited about the move, but some raised a few concerns around the Boardman's brand, considering that it caters to a more upmarket customer, whereas Pepco is more of a value retailer. So there was concerns about how it will combine that in its lifestyle brand. However, the group's emerging business CEO, Tyrone Vera, expressed excitement about the acquisition, stating that it forms part of an integral part of the strategy to grow its market share.
Tell me about Remgro and their profits. They're shooting the lights out, are they not?
Absolutely, Thulas. The company delivering earnings growth of nearly 39%, and this growth was driven by improved performances from most of its investee companies, including Rainbow Chicken, RCL Foods, Outsurance, and MediClinic. Now, Remgo's total earnings amounted to a profit of 3.65 billion rand, a significant turnaround from the previous restated loss of 1.6 billion rand. The company's improved performance is attributed to its strategic focus on disciplined capital allocation and active partnership with its portfolio companies. While progress has been made, Remgro acknowledges that more work is needed to unlock and optimize the performance of its portfolio. In addition, the contribution included its Heineken Beverages holdings, which also returned to profitability, driven by volume growth and margin recovery. But contributions from Total Energies Marketing SA and Community Investment Ventures holdings were lower due to the factors that were playing out in those sectors. Looking ahead, Remgro says it will continue to focus on disciplined capital allocation and driving sustainable performance in its underlying portfolio companies.
Right, Ntauling, it's a Wednesday today. Give us a sense of what kind of a day we can expect in the markets.
So stocks are likely to extend gains today, Thulas, as the relief rally continues across the board. Not much company news here at home, but traders can look out for Meta's results. Moving over to the currency scene, the rand slightly weaker this morning and nearing the 18.30 mark. It's sitting at 18.26 to the dollar this hour. Stateside futures are flat, while sentiment has improved. Investors still digesting the downbeat consumer confidence print we got overnight, and they are awaiting clarity on Trump's next tariff moves. Those issues also filtering through to Asian markets. Stocks are in positive territory, but trade still quite choppy.
All right, that's Ntauling Lechela there. She's kept you updated on business, the economy, as well as the markets over the last 3 hours here on The Morning Brief.
Something big is coming. 6:30 will never be the same. Amalanga Wafani, only on SABC 1.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me hear from Scully in Durban. It's on the issue of marriages. Good morning to you, Scully. If you don't mind, and if I reveal my age, is it Agent Scully?
Sorry?
Is it Agent Scully? You know, like the X-Files?
Like the X-Files?
Yes.
No, no, my name is Scully.
Yes, please go ahead. I'm just kidding. Please
I'm
go
sorry
ahead,
about
yes.
it. Good morning to you, too.
Yeah.
Okay, my takes about the marriages, like all those that do the marriages, like the pastors, the priests, and those that in any other religion,
Yes.
they should be certified before they do the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are okay to do marriages. You know, they're responsible.
Yes.
You see? And then they should be issued with marriage certificates. And I think when it comes to the Islam marriages, I think it's long overdue, sir. You know, after 94, it's 30 years, Muslim marriages are not recognized in SA. Why not?
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And I'm interested to know, how does other non-Muslim countries that have Muslims living there, how do they recognize their marriages?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, Scully. I mean, this approach where the laws were being developed on a piecemeal basis, that someone had to go through the trouble of litigating and going to court, only for the court to restate what it's been saying all along, that find a mechanism to recognize all of these marriages and have them solemnized properly. I mean, I think that's tired, and we should get to the point where this marriage bill is taken over the line. Arnold in Pietermaritzburg, you also want to weigh in on this issue of marriages. Good morning. Arnold, can you hear me? All right, let me take a call from Ben in Bloemfontein. Ben, good morning. You want to also weigh in on the issue of marriages?
Yes, good morning. But before I go there, can I just go in via Lesotho?
Yes.
And ask what happened with that professor who went to the UN and wants some part of South Africa, Free State, and so to go back to Lesotho. And in any case, many Basotus are here in South Africa, so I don't see the fuss. In any case, yes, we are one, please. And that one person who scored the goal, the one person they're complaining about is not the one who was playing against the whole team of Lesotho.
Yeah, we are brothers, we are cousins and sisters.
We are brothers, let us not fight.
I agree with you.
Now, the one thing that I want to share my sentiments with you is this guy from Cape Town or whatever who's trying to blah blah blah South Africa and so forth. I was actually very infuriated. We were speaking with I think Betha in one of the programs, and I was asking myself the same question: why are such things being aired? Because then at the end of the day, Recher and Dromedaris and Goedehoop must be waiting there, and these people must go back there because they don't want to live together with us. We want to live with people who want to build South Africa. On the issue of these marriages.
Wait, Ben, wait. You're moving too fast. You mentioned Recher, Dromedaris, and what? And Goedehoop.
And Goedehoop. Yeah.
Those ancient ships that sailed to the Cape.
Yeah. That's how they must remember how they came here. You see now, this brings us to this constitution, so-called constitution of the actually sunset clause, where they were actually saying that these ANC people are too many with their black brothers. So they must just come with their families and enjoy with the white minority. That is
right. I don't know what happened there. We seem to have lost Ben. Ben, unfortunately, I think your line cut out there towards the end of that conversation. Julius in the Western Cape, good morning. You want to weigh in on same-sex marriages and their recognition?
Yes, good morning, Tula. Thank you for taking my call. I was listening very attentively to the conversation you had with Tirona. If not Tirona, I couldn't get the right name.
Yes.
And I could tell that there's disappointment on her side where she sounds like she's pro same-sex marriage. So if I am a pastor or whoever is a pastor refuses to marry people who are same-sex, we shouldn't be forced to do that. Remember, for one to be a marriage officer, you need to take the test and pass the exam, and then you're certified. And then, if based on my religious view, I hold a strong view that a same-sex marriage is not from God. I shouldn't be forced. As for the officials who work for the Home Affairs, that's something else because they are employed by the Home Affairs to do their work. That's part of their work.
Yeah.
So if people of same sex want to get married, nothing stops them from applying to be marriage officers, and they can marry people of the same sex. That's my view.
So the way I understood it, Julius, if I can engage you a little bit, the way I understood what Tirona was saying, I think there's an appreciation even on her part that this is an area where black letter law, the letter of the law, perhaps won't resolve the situation. It becomes an issue of conversation with religious leaders to say, is it not possible within the prescripts of the tenets of your faith to consider what the meaning of love is within your faith and whether or not, strictly speaking, there isn't room to celebrate love in all forms. This is a conversation that, I think you are aware many churches are having about how do we grapple with this situation.
Yeah, if the Bible bars that same-sex marriage, and I believe in the Bible and strongly, then what room do I have to maneuver? It's like when the Bible say, the last 2 seconds, if the Bible say people shouldn't remarry after divorce if the other party is still alive, because then you're committing sin. Then if the Bible say that, which room do I use to maneuver to remarry people who are divorced if the Bible bars that from them? If I strongly believe in the Bible.
No, I hear you, Julius. I don't think you and I can get to a firm answer on these issues, but I think the important thing is for the conversation to take place.
Just like I wanted to say, so okay, if we're saying we're respecting those same-sex marriage people's constitutional view, whatever, we should also respect the religious views of those who strongly believe in their religion, irrespective of which religion.
Gotcha. Julius, thank you for that. And I think you go to the heart of the debate that many of the civil society organizations are wanting to see take place more, so that the outcome won't always be the same. It won't always be leave nothing unchanged. With continued engagement, who knows how views can be shaped such that there's a celebration of love all round.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just want to zoom into Joburg and have a look at the Mike 1. We had a crash earlier this morning at Caller Drive, and it's still there, still causing problems. So the collision is southbound, coming off the N1 at Buccleuch. You'll sit in traffic all the way down to Melrose, and then northbound from Parktown side on your way to Sandton. Everybody getting caught having a look at that. So very heavy on the Mike 1 both ways. Rivonia Road or Louis Botha, both sides of the highways come into play as alternatives. William Mandela down towards Sandton is being held up. Crash on Sandton Drive at Mari, going into Sandton, and behind that collision, traffic backed up on William Mandela, backed around Peter Place. The N1 towards the William Mandela off-ramp still very slow. Traffic light problems as you come off the highway and turn down towards the Sloane Street junction. Durban, the M4, just watch for some roadwork disruption coming up the Southern Freeway through Jacobs, Clarewood. Roadworks underway before you get to the M7 highway off-ramp. So Southern Freeway just under a bit of extra pressure today, quite a heavy queue there. And Cape Town, stay away from the N7 South until we sort of give notice that these roadworks have been lifted. There's one lane open as you come through the Trekker Road junction down towards the railway bridge on your way towards the casino, if you like. Traffic's heavy. It's all the way back to the N1 highway. It will queue all day long through there. Last night at 7 p.m. it was an extreme queue from Bosmansdam Road. That's the sort of extent of it. Trekker Road jams up into the N7 junction as well because of the traffic pressure out that way. If you are going south, you need to get into Goodwood. Use Monte Vista or the Gilberson option as alternative routes to sort of get yourself south parallel to the N7, but avoiding it. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
And then, how? SK, where are you going with that stuff?
My dog, I'm going whale watching. New hobby, you see. Finally going out to explore the world. Giri levels, Dwana.
I see the life jacket, but I don't know how an inflatable boat, megaphone, and a fishing rod fits into all of this.
How else am I going to get to the whales, Bongs? I need the boat. The megaphone is to do my whale calls, and the fishing rod, it's called ambiance. Ambiance. If you don't get it, forget about it.
Okay, but SK, you know there aren't any whales here in Germiston Lake.
Ooh, Shem, Mr. Know-it-all. Whales live in the water, and Germiston Lake has water.
Hi, sure, Ntwana, go whale watching in Germiston Lake. Me, I'll tune into Whale with Steve Buckshall, Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me hear more from you, the issues that we've been covering over the last 3 hours, particularly the issues around consolidating all of our marriage laws and aligning them with the values of our Constitution.
Morning, Thulas. I think it's a great idea to move from the age of 18 to the age of 21, but still by the age of 21 I still believe there's still minors to get into marriages if you consider the fact that a human body fully develops by the age of 25. I think for me that should be moved from that age of 18 to the age of 25 to avoid things such as divorces, early divorces, so to speak. That would be great for me, because by the age of 21, even others, they're still in schools, you see, they're still studying. So for me, age 25, a human body has fully developed, a lot has developed, the mind has developed, The choices have developed. Thank you. Bye. It's Arthur here. Bye.
Arthur, thank you. I can imagine a lot of young people who are preparing to get married, your 22-year-olds and thereabouts will be listening and saying, what are you saying? Arthur, they're saying that actually forget 21. Let's go all the way to 25 being the legal age of consent for marriage in this country.
Hi, good morning. Thulasizwe Johnson in Bombela. Is there any scientific evidence that says at 18 or 21 one is ready for marriage? We should look at that. We should allow science to lead us in such instances. There's no scientific evidence that suggests that 21 you're ready for marriage and all of that. So that's what it should be the starting point instead of just going at an age. We can say 22, we can say 25. How do we get to that 25 or 22? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. The suggestion that we should integrate science into the development, I suppose, of the human personality and the human brain and capacity, really, to fully understand the nature and impact and consequences of the actions that you are taking when you get married. I wonder, there's no science to it. Yes, there's a science to the human development, but I think you and I can agree that there's no science to whether or not that marriage will work out, right? Whether entered into at the age of 19 or indeed at the age of 36. Zoe in Konge, good morning. Perhaps you have wiser words than I do this morning about this issue of marriages and age.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. No, my brother, I hope I have.
Yes.
I see no wisdom in this proposal. Given that 18 is, we have accepted 18 as an adult age, not for sale to under 18s. Why are you going now to shift it now to say not for sale to under 21s? Because if you agree on that one, you say, okay, 21 is the right age for marriage. It must be the right age for everything, even films. So, in other words, we are saying a lot of things when you're saying that. We are saying that the people at 18 are not matured enough.
So the age of majority is the age of majority, yeah?
It does not make sense. All nations have been marrying below that age, teenagehood. You go to Umhlanga, you must take her to Umhlanga dance.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that, Zoe. Thank you. That's Zoe. They're saying that let's stick to what we've agreed. We've said that you become an adult in this society at the age of 18, and that should apply for everything that you can, every act that you can perform once you turn 18.
Good morning, Thulas. This is Bokulu here in Tata. No, I agree with the recommendations that the age for marriage should be raised from 18 to 21. An 18-year-old is still trying to study and make sense of their lives. I think that age is too early for one to get married. But at least by 21, they should have a direction of their lives and be able to make key decisions about their lives.
Yeah. No, it's really a tricky one. It's really a tricky one because you're measuring maturity of a person, and there's no real scientific way to measure that. I suppose that's the point that I'm making, that there isn't a scientific way to measure the maturity of a person. Let me take this one. It has to do with Bafana and their prospects of qualification. I imagine you also want to talk about this situation with Lesotho and the player who played while on a yellow card.
Morning, Thulasizwe. This type is on Bloemfontein. Please, my brother, can we get someone from...
Okay, I don't know what happened there. It stopped right in...
Whether they will deduct or not, that because of Lesotho did not file a complaint in stipulated time. Can you please just do it for me, my brother, or do it for us? Because we are not sure what is happening. Can someone get it? Can we get it from someone who has vast knowledge of this matter?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. Let's see what we can orchestrate and line up, because It is an interesting one, right? It's 2 yellow cards, not 1 yellow card. And you are supposed to then have been disqualified for the next match, but it would seem that that wasn't followed through. Let's see what we can orchestrate and get someone to talk to us about that. You're absolutely right that it needs someone who understands what the rules are, whether there's a points deduction that we can expect to happen, and what would be the implications given that Bafana do top their group and have gone for 19 games without conceding a loss, without being beaten. And according to Oliver Dixon, the best performing national team in football in the world right now. He's not saying they're the best team. No, best performing. And I choose to agree with Oliver Dixon in as far as that situation is concerned. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your engagement. The Talking Point with Kethi Motlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news with Khulufelo Tefu.
Thanks to Thulasizwe and the team. Top stories this hour: government to consult on cannabis food production ban, and US Waltz takes responsibility for security leak. Good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has affirmed his support for more stakeholder engagements on the new regulations banning the production, import and sale of any foods containing cannabis and hemp products. This after the Health Department gazetted a notice earlier in the month prohibiting the selling, manufacturing and importing of cannabis food products. The decision by the Health Ministry has received criticism from the cannabis and hemp industry. They say this could lead to job losses. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says the Health Department will continue to consult before publishing the revised regulations.
The President has affirmed his support for more stakeholder